Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Todd Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Fibre Oats, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Was I not on camera that entire time? Doesn't look like I was. Well, either way, with that, I'll pass over to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hey? Oh, someone's trying to join. Hello.
Hey, what's happening? Is Discord around?
Is who around?
Discord. I was just gonna do a radio check between me and them.
Steve's in there. It's just joined literally just now.
I just jumped in. I didn't hear anything though.
You not hear Refracted?
Yeah. And I just said I can hear you. Refract. Everything's good, Nathan.
Jolly good.
Yeah.
I watched a video yesterday that I'm gonna play through it. Not by a very big videographer, right? So this guy's called Les Luthor, Lez space Luthor, but Thor is capitalized. Not that it matters. Okay. I don't necessarily agree with everything this guy says, but quite a lot of it I do, and quite a lot of it he's extracted from other people. So I'm going to spin to about here.
We live in a twilight world. What if I was to tell you this was not the desert of the real, this was actually the desert of the unreal, a second simulation known as the Nightmare Matrix? What if I was to tell you that this guy right here is not a heroic rebel leader, but actually a dupe, a useful idiot, being played? What if I told you that Neo was not the one?
Hello. How's it going?
Morning.
Morning. Just watching a video that I picked up on yesterday from a very small videographer called Les Luthor. And I think it's called Matrix Uncovered or Matrix Decoded or something like that. There's a channel that's been covering the Matrix for the last 10 years. Excuse me. And a lot of the concepts that he's going through are echoed through a lot of other people who've covered the Matrix. But it isn't actually his point. His point of this video is about the double cross system. Now, whether or not I give credence to his assertions that there is a power at the top of a pyramid structure of people that is putting in place these double cross methodologies, it doesn't necessarily change that I see this occurring, as in you can quantify things that do occur with this example, as opposed to imply that it is the system of rule in our world. Now, he's implying that. Whether or not you choose to take that as read is entirely up to you. But I still think his take, generally speaking, is very, very interesting. Oh, everybody's piled in today. We've got Refracted Curvature, Paul, Neil, and Flatzoid. To what do we owe this pleasure, Flatzoid?
Flatzoid, what's up?
Hey. Yeah, I'm on vacation, so I have time to come in.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, very nice to have you.
Great to be here. Enjoying your show lately, dude.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, I was hoping Michael Kahn would come as well because him and Tinfoil Hatman have hit it off and they're friends now. But I think he's busy, so hopefully he might be able to join later on, maybe at least in YouTube chat.
I asked him, like I asked you, to come for a curry tomorrow. Whether or not he does or not, he alluded to the idea that he might come down tomorrow. We'll see.
Why wasn't I invited for this
Because you
curry?
live in a different. Anyway, let's listen to this video. This is Les Luthor.
Actually, a program helping to reset the matrix. How would you feel? What if I was to take every character and flip it on its head? How would you feel? You see, the film, The Matrix mythology, it has a strong presence within the conspiracy truther world, right? And I don't know, I've always had a big problem with the film, and I'm always quite shocked and surprised that many people don't pick up on it. The ending of the trilogy is, as the film title suggests, a revolution, a return back to the start. This is not a good thing, okay? I think people miss this, right? People miss this ending that is so important and profound in the whole story. It ends with a revolution back to the start. The humans did not win. Not only did they did not win, they actually, well, the Red Pills especially, actually assisted in fighting to reset and keep the very matrix they think they're fighting against. So yeah, I think.
First of all, I would completely agree with him, and so that's where we're in alignment straight away. I should really check whether or not he's replied. No. So I left him a comment yesterday after he released the video saying, I may cover this onto my show tomorrow. Good stuff. Anyway, he hasn't responded, so I can only assume he doesn't object.
I think this might offend a lot of people, this little short documentary I'm going to do here. But I'm basically going to I'm going to flip the matrix on its head.
I don't think he does do that. I think it would only offend people who take the very, very surface level of Matrix and don't look into it in any sort of depth in any way. They may offend them.
It from a different angle, right? And show you how it's one giant double cross operation. And it's a good tale of the double cross system in full effect, right? Because many people put it down as a Gnostic tale. I actually disagree. I think it's a double cross tale. And obviously, if you know me and you follow my work, you know I talk a lot about the double cross system. Because from my estimation, the double cross system is it. It's the very top of the pyramid, well above, what the mainstream truther conspiracy guys think is the top, right? They think it's Masons, Jesuits, Jews. They are nothing. They're not even mid-table, right? The double cross system is a system that's playing everyone against everyone. Yeah? Whatever crusade you're on, they will give you the chicken feed to further that crusade and, fuel it. Fuel your crusade, feed it, give you the somewhat true but useless information that further pushes you to fight.
Again, I don't necessarily agree with his sentiment in terms of there's a they giving out chicken feed, but the sentiment in regards to how things play out in terms of how he's about to describe the double cross system as he praises it, you'll see where the alignment comes for us in a second.
In a war which you will never actually win and is not meant to be won, but just meant to go on and on and on. Very much like what we just spoke about. The radical red pills who endlessly keep partaking in this war, which results in a resetting of the matrix and a revolution back to the start. And it just goes round in a loop over and over and over and over and over again. And what's the point in that? We want ascension, yeah? We want ascension or escape. A revolution back to the start is no good to anyone. Yeah, being fooled into a war that's being manipulated and puppeteered by the double cross system is pointless. And I think the day that people realize this is the day that maybe things might change in our reality. Maybe.
So by contrast, I would say us peddling Feast of Nonsense is pointless and analogous to his chicken feed example. You're given this information that you've not necessarily researched yourself. You go out and regurgitate it thinking you're fighting the good fight, when all you're really doing is perpetuating the ridiculed stance of a flat earther while giving the opponent something nice and easy to get their teeth into, reasserting the original position. So you end up in a revolution rather than actually advancing the understanding of the people you're trying to communicate with when you regurgitate the feast of nonsense.
Anyway, let's get into it, okay? Let me just do a quick recap of how I came across the double cross system, yeah? So when I got back from my second trip to Ukraine, where I was exposing that, you know, the Ukraine war, like every war, is merely based on an illusion of war rather than a real war, 4D, fully immersive theatre, you know, that those partaking in this illusion don't really understand, right? If they're participating in it, they don't understand. And I put forward the idea that with illusion warfare, you know, the illusion creates the belief, creates the manifestation, right? Those that believe in the illusion bring it to life, very much like a tulpa or, you know, energy flows where attention goes and so on. You can manifest things into a physical reality.
He has no example to draw upon where we have a direct example to draw upon. Now, I don't know this guy's stance in terms of our subject, and it doesn't matter because I'm drawing contrasts and comparisons to what he's saying with examples that I can actually give. Ergo, where he describes you manifesting a reality, the globe is that manifested reality. So when he says energy goes where interest is, I forget how he phrased it, but it's very true. The people who are manifesting a reality of a sphere are doing it through their own self-conscious, their own mind has put that idea into reality. It isn't reality, but as far as the person that's living it, it is their manifest reality that they are on a sphere in space.
By partaking in it. Anyway, when I got back from my second trip to Ukraine, I came across a book called The Double Cross System. I read this book. Well, I didn't even read it. I had a quick flick through it, and I had one of them holy shit moments of my life. And this was it. You know, a lot of people ask me, yeah, Les, how was World War II faked? Or how was it an illusion and so on? It's simple. The double cross system was controlling both the Allies and the Axis. The good guys and the bad guys were both getting their intelligence from the double cross system. They're both getting moved around on a chessboard by one hidden hand, yeah? Or one source, should we say. There might be two hidden hands, three hidden hands, but it's coming from one source. There's one system that's controlling them both, and that's how it's done. And like I just said, they're just getting moved.
Yeah, I don't agree. I think in individual circumstances, there are individual people who will do something that ends up controlling an entire narrative, potentially. And they don't necessarily want to even ascribe themselves to that control in many instances. It's often a third party, which you could also describe as a hidden hand, that's utilised their information to perpetuate a lie. You know, if you look at things like Keplerian orbital motion to understand how that could be the case, or gravity to see how that could be the case. But it isn't necessarily the case that it's a power that should not be or described as a hidden hand. I think it's us. You know, there may be people who are in financial power that have an easier ability to influence people because of the means that they have to do so. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they will. And it doesn't necessarily mean that people who don't have those financial means can't be equally as influential. So in this subject matter, it's because it's up in the air in terms of what we perceive to be the opening up of the floodgates of information in terms of our reality. There's no rules set in terms of how it's going to be reacted to, and therefore it doesn't make any difference in this particular arena if you're of a particular stature already. You know, you can rise to prominence as a Simon Dan or as a Jeranism just as easily as somebody who has plenty of power to do so. And the person who has power to do so may not necessarily find themselves finding algorithmic success in YouTube for the sake of argument. So the passing of information in this regard is, in our subject matter, very much in the air, and therefore can be influenced by some random guy. But the outside perception is suddenly that there's a hidden hand doing it. Now, if I give you an Andrew Thomas Young example of how we end up in the wrangle-dangle of our manifest reality with refraction for the sake of argument, you can appreciate that that's just some dude. He's not some hidden hand, but he has assisted the rhetoric, assisted the system, if you want to see the system, which is self-perpetuating at this stage, as having a hidden hand. And maybe it did at one stage. This is just something I fundamentally don't agree with, because I can't see beyond governmental control what could be described as this particular influencer when it comes to our subject matter. You can only see people, just people. And that's what it all boils down to. There may be a grandiose impression given off by those people in some circumstances, but I just think that when it comes to what we perceive to be a hidden hand, you know, I don't think it is actually the case. You know, you can follow the breadcrumbs back to whoever it was that originally changed some rhetorical point that we argue to manifest our reality.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the whole ether and electrostatics thing, where just some people are pushing it and people just accept it, and now you kind of seeing it as a hidden hand manifesting itself. It's just a conglomerate of people that's just got to the same gullible understanding and therefore pushes it, and it gets widespread fire.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Feel free.
What about around all those operations, Operation High Jump, Dominic, Fishbowl, and then how that tied it into the whole landings being faked? Wasn't that some sort of thing going on behind the scenes that was putting all this in motion?
Where'd you get your
Hidden hand, you could say,
information from?
maybe, I
Is
don't
the
know.
question first and foremost. Where's that information come from? How well validated is the connection that you've ascribed that came directly from the Feast of Nonsense?
Okay, so
There's
you're
a
saying
parallel
like
that's been drawn originally in Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues, whereby Operation High Jump and Operation Fishbowl are directly followed by NASA. Okay.
that and
okay.
and
Number one.
Antarctic Treaty.
Number one, do you accept that the things that are documented did actually happen in Fishbowl? Do you accept that they fired nuclear weapons at the sky? Do you accept that?
Fair enough. Fair enough, I did. But how about this one? I see what you're saying. The Antarctic Treaty.
What about it?
All these countries are involved, yes or no?
They're all on the document. If you want to show me the document, and I've seen it, yes. So,
right? Doesn't that imply, like what was the name? Tinfoil Hat Man. Doesn't that imply what he said
what?
about somebody orchestrating all this behind so that they can get them all together to do this?
No, they have all got together, and you've proven it by just showing the document. There's nothing more beyond proving what it actually shows, and that is self-evident. Would you not agree?
It's self-evident. They all got together and did that, yeah. But
there you go.
Doesn't it seem like okay, but
you're asking me what it implies and seems like now, aren't you, Righteous? Do you want me to offer my opinion on how it seems or what it may imply? Is that going to be useful? Do you see where I'm going, Righteous?
I see where you're going.
So it's sort of like the self-evidence is there, and then you're just building your narrative off of that self-evidence presented. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Basically. There's going to be
It seems like...
Go on, John.
It seems like the interpretation of the facts has become the important thing instead of just the facts.
Well, even in science, there's an interpretation of data, right? That's how we get a scientific theory. We got the data and information, and then we interpret it, come up with a theory. Though I guess you wouldn't say a theory is a fact.
But you're talking about known variables, right?
Right, but I'm just saying that is an interpretation, right? A theory is an interpretation of what was experimented, correct?
Well, I mean, it's the theory part, uses deduction and induction, but it's backed by hypothesis. So you're working with what's known.
Yeah, it's backed by facts. And we know that all these guys collaborated. That's known, right? So you could say this is a theory then. Not a scientific theory, but a theory nonetheless.
No, you could say that there was a meeting of the people on the Antarctic Treaty, and they all agreed to something. That's all you can say.
All right, but that's
do you know
fact.
who else connects all these military operations with the Antarctic Treaty very regularly? David Weiss. It's part of his shtick. He just reels off a name of operations and just makes a claim that they somehow mean something. It's pointless rhetoric.
I mean, you can take the Antarctic Treaty and you can make so many different conspiracies out of the evidence that because they have a treaty together. I mean, I can make things like, well, they just banded together because they want to build a secret race on Antarctica and they don't want us to be part of it. I mean, see what I mean? I just
Let me
built
respond
something
to
out
that.
of the evidence presented. Doesn't
Let me
make it true,
respond to
though.
that. Let me respond to that too. I can come up with more than one scientific theory, and it doesn't make it true either. But it's still a theory.
Well, scientific theory is built off of actual validated hypothesis.
Yes, but it's still a theory. It's like what they assume is going on behind the experiment.
No, that's not quite it.
It isn't?
No, because you're working with known variables, right? Like with the water boiling, we're talking about phase changes, right?
Yeah.
What we
But the
experience, what we know.
whole particle thing, and I'm not saying I'm anti-particle or not, but all that stuff about it's like particles expanding and moving rapidly, that's a concept, isn't it?
No, the moment that the discrete point of information shows up on the double slit, the particle is not a speculation. It's a matter of fact.
Right, but before we get to that, before we get to like the double slit, and you just do the water thing, and then you come up with a theory that it's particles expanding. That's a concept, right?
I disagree with that point, by the way.
Say again.
Particles expand. What?
Well,
Did you say,
we
Paul?
experience light, we experience the physical effects of light, but just because you can record something doesn't make it a physical particle. Because what we're talking about here is a non-physical particle, and to me that doesn't make sense.
Define physical.
Something that you can hold, measure, experience. We're told we can't actually see light itself.
That's tangible as opposed to physical.
Okay, yeah.
Right, you're confusing two words. Physical.
No, but they're recording the effect, is what I'm saying, on the plate.
The effect in the physical world.
So physical can be some kind of manifestation that's able to be observed. Can we say that?
That's fair. Yeah.
I'm a bit lost. Why are we discussing this?
Oh, it was
Because we
about
don't know what
theory.
light is.
Well, hold on. It was about theory because they're trying to correlate making up a story about why these countries created this treaty instead of explaining why water boils, which deals with known facts.
No, I still don't see the
Well, wait a second.
juxtaposition. I'm not getting it, but maybe if the conversation.
Well, let me point it
that's why I
out.
went quiet. Sorry, Righteous. Carry on.
Yeah, let me just point it out, right? Okay, the scientific theory is based on validation of experiment, right? Facts, right? But the thing with the Antarctic Treaty, you could say, hey, these guys signing all this stuff is facts. They're all in on it. That's facts. So why can't you base a theory on those facts too, just like you base a theory on scientific facts?
Now, if
That's
is that why you just said what you said, John, because of what Righteous has just illustrated? If so, now I understand. I think.
What the wild speculation of why they did it. We know they did it, but we don't know why they did it. Why are we speculating on it? I don't see the point.
Yeah, the expansion of your scientific validity through theory is very different standards to a historic standard when it comes to signing documents. They're different standards. So you're talking about a historic standard versus a scientific standard. Well, the expansion of your speculation in terms of what you can glean from history is very different to what you can infer based on empirically validated outcomes in experimentation. Those two standards are so far apart from each other, it's untrue.
So we can base it on, because of science, that's what causes and how it causes something. But if you're taking the treaty, it's on why. So you're just using speculation then.
It's just a different standard. You're not dealing with
It's
cause and
still
effect. You're
why.
dealing with a treaty. You know, the very literal consensus of men agreed upon, demonstrated by signatures on papers. Okay, I don't really follow why this is being contrasted,
Yeah.
but there we go.
Yeah, all I'm trying to say is then it's not scientific, so there's just no inference in fact.
No. Just because you can have an inference and call it a fact in a particular field, science, and you have empiricism behind your methodology, doesn't mean that in a different field you can't state something as fact. If I give you a verbatim quote out of a book and state that is a verbatim quote from the book, and that is fact, you're going to say, well, that's not scientific. No, it isn't. But we're not talking about a scientific standard when I describe that as being a fact. Now, we're lucky, and it's perhaps got a bit the better of some of us, that we are in a scientific genre. When you talk about the nature of the world, that will, more often than not, have a cause and effect relationship that could have been put through the scientific methodology when it's asserted by us or the globe believers. So there's more often than not going to be a capability of putting it to a scientific standard. That doesn't mean you ignore all of the standards and decry their factual nature, but you must also understand the standard that's being applied in that particular instance and what it implies or infers after the factual declaration. For me, is almost irrelevant. I mean, it might be pertinent in our arena if we were actually trying to go through Antarctica because we knew that beyond an ice ring there was more land. But I don't know what Antarctica is, and I wouldn't know where to begin if I was going to be Captain Cook. I don't know why it's a concern for me as a flat earther, therefore. But we're discussing
Can
it.
I add more?
Yeah.
Okay. What was I gonna say? Right. So, we got scientific theories, right? We got other theories, like you can say conspiracy theories. There's more than one standard of evidence. There's scientific evidence, right? There's other evidence, like, hey, all these guys signed this paper evidence. There's testimonial evidence. Hey, all these guys' testimonies line up after being cross-examined. There's more than one standard of evidence, right? So if there's scientific evidence,
Again, no, depends on what you're quoting as it proving. So if you want to assert conspiratorially that they've all got together and they've all conspired to stop us going to a particular place, it doesn't matter what the reason I'm telling you. Just let me finish. Doesn't matter the reason I'm telling you, but they've all conspired to stop you. Okay? Is there any proof of that? Yeah, it's the document they all signed. That proves that claim as a standard. But beyond that, it's just inference and suggestion. That therefore can't be used as proof for your claim that you're going to make by inference thereafter.
that's not what I said, actually. I'm glad you said that, because that clears things up. I'm not saying it proves. I'm saying it's a theory. You see, the cause and effect proves. Wiggling the independent variable proves. The theory after it is just a theory. It's not saying it's proof. The proof is the independent variable, the scientific experiment. The theory after the scientific experiment is just a theory. Now, hold on. Let me finish. Now, what I'm saying about the
let me finish. Fine,
please.
carry on, but no.
Okay, let me finish. So it says the Antarctic Treaty. It proves that they did sign that. That's all it proves. Now, the theory afterwards is just a theory. I'm not saying it's proof. Does that make sense? Does that put a thing in perspective a little bit?
If you're going to formulate a scientific theory, like the theory of plant growth, then it's going to be lots of scientific experiments on various aspects of how plants grow, and each of the statements within your theory will be backed with scientific validity. So to say, based on the facts that are provided in a different standard historic, that they did sign and conspire to stop people going to a particular location according to the document, my theory thereafter, no, this is a cross-pollination of standards that is leaving a very bitter taste in my mouth, righteous, no offense.
All right, well, the way I understand it, the theory comes after the experiments, right? Comes after the fact.
Yeah.
A scientific theory backed by lots of different empirically validated experiments. But if you're going to now juxtapose that with a colloquial theory based on the empirical evidence of a signature on a document, it's not going to sit well, is it? As you can probably already tell from how I'm replying to you.
Well, yeah, but it seems like I'm not saying I know. It seems like you guys are trying to say like I'm trying to tie it to the scientific standard of evidence, and I'm not. It's in its own category of evidence, separate from the scientific method.
How are we having this conversation? What have I missed then? We're here doing this, aren't we?
Maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe I'm the one misunderstanding. So I guess I'll just leave it at this. I mean, I appreciated talking to you guys about this. It was interesting.
Hey, no worries.
Maybe it's something more I need to sit on,
It's
and
okay,
I need
but
to think about it more.
Fine. I've got some admin that I need to do in the meantime. Tinfoil Hat Man, you there?
Hey everyone, how are you doing? You alright, Nathan?
What video are we covering today? What's the title of it? So I can bring it up in large screen and just check it looks nice.
It's number 5. It's Flat Home Lighthouse and Monkstone Lighthouse. It was at number 5 that I uploaded to Google Drive for you.
Sure, but I might have downloaded it in a different order. So mine's number 1, 4K 30 FPS video, black, nor Lighthouse from Goldscliff. Is that the one?
No, it's the one that states Flat Home and Monkstone Lighthouses.
No, I've got 4 videos. That's the first title. The second one is number 2, 4K 30 FPS panoramic iPhone location. The third is 4K battery point from Goldscliff seabed. And the fourth is 7 beach area from Goldscliff Sea.
Yeah.
Is it a different one?
You don't have the one then that I uploaded and it's there. It's in that same folder.
Okay, if you can just send me a link to that folder again and I'll download it because it's obviously gone in since I've downloaded this last bunch.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll do it.
I'll put it in Master B. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll just come off Skype. I'll just mute.
Oh, one more back office thing, Nathan.
Yeah.
I left a comment on Skyfree's video about the copyright strike, asking her to contact you by email, so maybe she will.
No,
but she
hasn't
deleted my
copyright.
comment.
No, she hasn't. It's just the music she's used.
Oh, okay. Well, I just asked her to contact you to see what happened or if she can reverse herself, because I said to her, I know third parties can report it, so like a baller. So maybe she will get in contact anyway. I just thought I'd let you know.
No, it's the music.
Alright.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's why I use her stuff with mute. Talk over it. Music's my arch enemy.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just thought it was really
You
interesting
didn't know.
to look at.
No, it's fine. You didn't know, and I should have recognised it when I started listening to it.
I had to drop there. Did we reach a conclusion on the scientific theory versus speculation?
He's a dumbass.
No, that's not what he said. He said he may not understand it fully, but he'll leave it at that. That's not saying he's a dumbass. Far from it. How dare you? Righteous is far from stupid. The fact that he can concisely verbalise where he may or may not understand something doesn't make him a dumbass. Quite the contrary.
Yeah, like it's firmament theories. Yeah, I got you.
Whose firmament theories? Why are you having a dig at Righteous? What's going on? Neil?
It's not really worth the wrangle dangle, Nathan.
Well, I'm just
Like
intrigued.
picking a fight, that's all.
There's
Why?
too many points to go over which you don't want to go over, I can assure you.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Anyway, so let's get back to the Matrix then. Les Luthor.
Moved around like pawns on a chessboard. That's a double cross system. So yes, it's admitted to that the double cross system existed in World War II. I put it forward to everyone that the double cross system has been around since the beginning, way before World War II and right now. After I brought this out forth into the world, Twitter changed its name to X, and it appears as XX on your phone in your pocket. Now, I don't know if I have to take responsibility for bringing the double cross forward even more. I don't know. But they are, like I said, top of the pyramid in my opinion. So I'm saying to people, why waste your time focusing on Jesuits, Jews, Illuminati, Masons, all these kind of like low-end, low-hanging fruit, when we can focus more on the double cross system, which is, you know, like this picture shows here, right? Punch and Judy. Anyway, let's bring it back to the Matrix.
Sorry to interrupt.
This right here, the one they call...
Nathan,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. Nathan, I've sent it to your... I've DM'd you because I can't put that link to Master B.
Oh, okay.
So it's only for you.
No, that's fine. As long as I've got
Yeah.
it.
Can you just confirm that you've got it, and then you can download it? It's number 5. It's the one that states Monkstone, Flatholm and Monkstone Lighthouse. I've labelled them all, so it's number 5. It's number 5. Can you just confirm that?
I've clicked on it and it just seems to have just immediately loaded. Is that how it's supposed to have done it?
I don't know. I thought you had to download it. Can you run it just from that drive? I don't know.
Maybe I have downloaded it and it's just not in this folder.
I don't know.
Who knows? I've clicked on it and it's immediately just come up. So it says we all good and then the link underneath that, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just comes up nice and big. Let's just see if it looks good in full screen. How do I make it full screen? Which little tab do I need to click on? What did I call it last time? PJ something or other.
Tinfoil, for future reference, if you want to use a disposable one, you just get an individual link for an individual file, and then you don't have to worry if you share it. If you use a thing called easyupload.io, that's a really good one to use, and I use that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think I'm sorted. So does it allow me to do it in 4K? Auto 4K 1080. The 1080 is as high as it gives me in this folder for some reason.
Yeah, you'll need to download it then, Nathan. But it's not like a massive file. If you've got good internet, it'll not take a few minutes.
But it's not taking me to the file. If I click on that link, it just takes me straight to this. That's what I'm saying.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm with you. Right. Let me well, but can you not see all of those? Can you not see my folder then? I don't understand that.
No, when I click on it, it just literally brings this file straight up as a web page, which is fine. I can use that.
Okay,
It looks good enough.
Okay, fine. If that's what we have to roll with, then no problem. But I'll just send you another link again. Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
Locally is better because it'll play smoother. It might buffer if I'm playing it from the folder online.
Well, the Oracle, she was actually the true power, playing all sides off against each other. She was manipulating Morpheus and the Red Pills and, deceiving them, double-crossing them into fighting for the Matrix instead of shutting it down like they thought they were. That's it, I've tried to explain to people the double-cross system using the World War II example, but I think this might work better, right? Explaining people through a pop culture example. So yeah, she is the double cross system. Now, I'm sure many people will argue, but she was created by the architect and all this kind of stuff. Maybe she was created by the architect, but she's taken off into a world of her own now, and she is pulling the strings. She is manipulating both sides off against each other.
Okay, so what's the file I'm downloading? Flatholm and Monkstone.
Yeah, that's the one, number 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't got it already.
I thought that guy was English. I followed him on Twitter for a bit, but I unsubscribed, so that may have something to do with Flat Earth. He may say it's like part of the double cross system or something. I can't quite remember.
I'm not understanding how it relates to us yet.
What are we listening to?
You see, the Oracle / double cross system, it doesn't care about winning. It doesn't care which side wins. It just wants the perpetual war to go on. And she achieves her goal by getting the Red Pills to keep...
Say again?
I think Hammer's trying to join, I think he said. I sent him the link.
So this is... What this guy's doing is putting the feast of... It would be like putting the Feast of Nonsense up against the globe and saying... that as long as there's an argument to be had, that's all that's important. Is that?
Yes, you're following along the lines.
Resetting
Yeah,
the
well, I guess
matrix
that's-
again and again and again.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, but that's how paradigms reinforce themselves, right? I don't like, this is on the edge of of a law of nature, I guess. I don't know what else. It's just how people are, you know. I don't think it's necessarily
This reminds you of like what a mentalist does, where they kind of lead you to some kind of understanding. I think that's how I understand it, how he's saying it's playing both sides of the coin, where they lead you to the narrative they want you to understand and believe.
right. But there's us too in this equation when you look at it, because we're not part of that cycle anymore. We've stepped away from it, because that's what, you know, true knowledge can do, is to know with certainty. Therefore, you're not trying to interpret something to come up with a speculation. You know.
Yeah, we're the rebels. We're going against the grain, so that's quite a devastating thing, because we're not under their control anymore.
Aren't we? Sorry. What are we free from? We're only free from the knowledge of the paradigm of all or flat. They're happy. They've always known that. They've always known these systems could surface whenever they want. How do we not know that we're not part of the control system, that we've been triggered now?
Well, that's where I'm comparing and contrasting and saying that when we regurgitate the feast of nonsense, that's exactly what we are doing. But we're doing it as individuals as opposed to a hidden hand, which is where I definitely don't agree with him.
I'm saying, even now as free men, thinking we're illuminating ourselves, saying it's just as plausible that that illumination we're feeling is been controlled just as much as
yes,
think we're free.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Hold on a sec. No.
I'd agree with that.
Hold on a sec. Is level horizontal or is it curving?
It's level.
It has to be horizontal on both sides.
Yeah, there are certain things that we will put out there a matter of fact. I'm not disagreeing with that either.
Right. The minute we go into speculation, we're putting ourselves into that system.
Yeah.
Because that's all it does.
And often things we discuss have unavoidable speculation filtered in, whether we want it there or not.
And the cycle goes round again and again. The revolution happens. The wheel is spinning over and over. It's a loop going round and round. No ascension, no escape. So yeah, she is the double cross system. She's the best example I can think of in pop culture of the double cross system. And nobody really picks this up, right? Sure, there are some places online where you can see people have, theorized that, she is actually the biggest villain of all. And to be fair, I've got to say that what I'm saying here about the Matrix is not actually that original. There's plenty of people that have sat around, philosophizing the Matrix and talking about what I'm talking about. So I also want to make that clear. I'm not the first person to come up with this, right? I'm just using it all as an example of the double cross system. Because what we have to remember is there is at least 3 sides to every story, right? There's your side, their side, and then there's the truth. The thing about the Matrix trilogy / mythology is we're only seeing the story through the eyes of the radical red pills. And of course, they don't see themselves as radical. They see themselves as righteous, right? Their crusade is a righteous one. I want people to...
In my comparison with us, right, when he says there's your side, their side, and then there's the truth, there's the Illuminati hidden hand of flat Earth and the realms beyond the ice wall where those powers that should not be reside as they control over us. Then there's their side. No, the world's just a sphere. And then there's the truth. It's just measured flat.
Right. Which, like when you're talking about Greek anacyclosis, and that's what this double cross system sounds like. I mean, that's what our governments is based off of. So, the purpose of government is to spread its influence. That's what it does. That's, it's control of men's minds. And the people who created the structures that we use for government now had intended or have been stated to intend to play that need for growth off of each other. If it's true, I don't know. But that's the story you're given.
To not stand in the corner of the red pills, not stand in the corner of the machines, and just stand all the way back and look at it with no skin in the game, no emotional attachments to the outcome. Look at it from a distance and you will see it is one giant double cross operation with the Oracle playing off man and machine against each other.
Right, like we see in our arena. So we can continue the battle internally with what we see as the red pills in flat Earth out with their feast of nonsense. Yeah? And they have genned up the idea that they are battling against their side, the globe side.
Keeping the whole system running, right? Because, the machines, they need the matrix to get their fuel. These
Yeah, our counterparts in flat Earth need the magic trick of science.
guys, they kind of need to be fighting the matrix to have a purpose.
And just knowing it's flat doesn't give them an enemy. If Earth is just flat, there is no hidden hand. There is no door to Narnia. There is no fantastical, just fantasy that people can indulge in, right? With some perceived goal. No, it's just measured flat. That's actually not that glamorous. But hidden worlds and hidden hands is. Conspiracy is a lot more glamorous. It's easier to sell.
And, they're played off against each other, man. They're the perfect kind of symbiotic system that keeps each other alive. Now, I don't want people to think that I'm just completely shitting over the Matrix entirely.
No, I don't think that.
Good morning.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Seasons, greetings.
Good afternoon.
I guess I'm wood.
Whoa, we got a
Sorry,
full
Neil.
panel.
My bad. You were covered by an icon or something. I just couldn't read you off the list.
Chopped liver, you are, Neil.
And Adam. Did I mention Adam?
Now, the only other person you forgot was Turtle Productions.
Hammer. Yeah, there's a lot of you in today. I mean, yesterday I started the show with literally nobody here. Today, there's about 8 of you and you're moaning that I haven't got all your names in the intro. Well, I'm sorry, the Hammer, Adam, and Neil Cosentino. All right, well, now I've got that out of the way, because that's very important. You must know who's attending. Go on, whoever. Adam, go ahead.
I was going to say, no need to apologise to me. You did get me in register.
Jolly good. Because it's very important we know where to go if there's a fire. Okie dokie, let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You and your reference frames are ruined.
Have been ruined.
Don't you need a radius for that?
Oh, we're all keen. John, then Flatsoid.
Yeah, you need a flat plane for that radius.
That's correct. We'll get there. Right, Flatsoid, you can go after John. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that the ether with the Michelson-Morley experiment proves that it's not. We're not spinning.
Number one, it's not an experiment. Number two, it doesn't prove anything. What are you talking about? It proves we're not spinning. You don't have to prove we're not spinning. That's a non-positive claim. You don't have to prove non-existence. If there's a positive claim that we are turning, then you get to proving that. As for me having to provide an experiment for the non-existence of Earth's movement, I'm not going to be doing that.
What? But no, you have to prove your extraordinary claim of a stationary Earth.
It's not an extraordinary claim. What are you talking about? How is it extraordinary to claim that Earth isn't moving when it obviously has no discernible proof of movement? It's the ground. It's an utterly absurd claim, outrageous.
No,
it's the best possible
if you
description.
throw a bottle out of the window, then the water inside the bottle doesn't fall, even though the entire bottle is falling.
Okay.
That
the
makes
bottle doesn't
the
fall
Earth
despite
being
its falling.
stationary an extraordinary claim.
But Wolfie says he accounts for Coriolis when flying a plane.
That's just because Wolfie's stupid. Coriolis is a not actual deflection observed from a non-inertial turning reference frame of an object travelling straight, seeming to drift because you're turning beneath it. So to assert that the projectile you're observing to seem to drift can account for the Coriolis effect, as Wolfie 6020 has declared, just affirms his stupidity. Doesn't suggest that there's a Coriolis accounting button, because it's an illusion only observed from a turning reference frame. You're not on a turning reference frame if you're in an aeroplane, therefore you can't account for an illusion someone who is observing you seem to corkscrew through the air because they're on a kid's roundabout. Oh, right, am I going to account for that kid watching me from the roundabout seeming to corkscrew through the air? No, he is not. Wolfie's a fool.
I
Well,
like the
Wolfie-
team. Throw all stupid claims at Nathan today.
Well, Wolfie thinks there's an actual deviation, and that's Coriolis effect, and it's based on your latitude.
Oh, it's wiki parroting nonsense when it's a not actual deflection observed from a non-inertial turning reference frame. So his globiolus description parroted from wiki won't cut it. Earth doesn't exhibit any effects of Coriolis. It is claimed to exhibit Coriolis effect. That's the end of the argument. What we end up with is people like Wolfie trying to mitigate for the fact Earth does not exhibit Coriolis effect as it is claimed to do. Therefore, it's a different version that won't have the effect you think you're going to... No. Again, you failed to prove your positive claim Earth's moving by the assertion that it has a Coriolis effect. It doesn't. End of claim.
And he used latitudes which are based from flat Earth. So
yeah, he will need a flat Earth for the latitude grid and longitude.
Yeah, but the variance, you gotta remember, the variance of the Coriolis will vary at different latitudes to the point that you'll feel it at none of them. This is part of the bullshit in his claim. See, within his actual claim, if the Earth did exhibit Coriolis, there would be variation at different latitudes. Yeah? But what they then subsequently say is, however, we don't feel any of those effects.
Feel the effect of an illusion observed as you turn beneath things travelling straight. Yeah, we're not going to feel those effects. Again, it's a convolution of what should be observed and is claimed to be demonstrated on an Earth that turns. Yet we don't experience, so they mitigate for it.
Hmm? There's the proof.
To address Arwin, that's the positive claim, Arwin. The positive claim, extraordinary in nature, is that Earth as a physical, non-moving entity, I don't have to prove that, is that it is moving, but we wouldn't notice. Okay. No, it's claimed to have Coriolis effect, which we would most assuredly notice, and we do not.
Yeah, but what about the upward moving?
I was going to say, in fairness to you, Arwin, that's not a Coriolis, globiolis response, is it? It's an Umi's response, that, isn't it, you're giving?
Right, but wouldn't technically be this, because we're upward moving, that's why everything, why density, buoyancy moves the way it does. It's like a presuppositional claim for that.
But wasn't the question based on axis rotation, though?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, it's a bit like back in the day when I first got to this subject, we had concave Earthers in a minor amount of prevalence, but they were just like an irritation more than anything else, and UMIs, upward rising earthers, are no different. It's just a minor inconvenience by comparison to the big wide world problem of reification of a sphere taken from elevation angle measurements off a flat plane to the stars to give us grids to bend around spheres. Well, that is the problem, not upward rising earthers.
Darwin's already sarcastically dealt with them
Yes, he has.
by highlighting their fundamental claim that they seem to think the fact that we don't experience anything the Earth other than stationary, that it's us that's making an extraordinary claim at that point. That's
They're the ones actually doing it. That's right.
It's the only point you need to do with them, isn't it? Make them recognise that it's their extraordinary claim and ask them to substantiate it. Other than that, go away. Throwing bottles out of windows, stop it.
I've noticed there's a lot of Einsteinian rhetoric in the flat Earth, like the idea of space-time, which flat earthers call the ether,
Down
or
to
the
space.
upward rising Earth. Yeah, or the upward rising Earth, which would be the equivalence principle to.
Oh, you mean E equals MC squared?
Yeah.
Yeah, the upward rising Earth is just the equivalence principle from Einstein. So their upward rising Earth is no different to Einstein's description of you not noticing the fact that you're in a rocket moving up. It's no different. Same thing.
That isn't what he says either. He said for a short time you wouldn't be able to tell. With the limitation of other senses, you wouldn't be able to tell. It's a very constrained thing that's been expanded to now mean this claim that you wouldn't be able to tell whatsoever ever. That's not, as I understood it, the actual point he's making. Saying just for a short time you wouldn't be able to tell is what the claim is. Could be wrong, but
No, but you're exactly right, because in a way, the whole equivalence principle or whatever, that thing that Einstein invoked, the idea, is really like some sort of claim to be Coriolis effect, except not by spin, but by relative motion. That's kind of what they're trying to invoke.
But that's not
Right?
Coriolis. You require extra rotation for Coriolis.
I get it, but in this case, it's not a rotation. It's just the thing that is moving is claimed not to move. It's the thing that's standing still that's claimed to be moving, right? So they switch that perspective, which is exactly what Coriolis is also. It's like, oh, you think it's moving, but you're the one that's moving. And they try to invoke that effect falsely on Earth, as if it is rising upward, and the proof is that things fall down, basically.
I know what you're saying. They're trying to convolute the argument the same way the people who argue for Coriolis when it's Globiolus do. That's why you've juxtaposed it.
Yeah, it's very similar.
And that's also why Raichi 5 Zeros doesn't want, would say to Adam, you don't want me to go to the Coriolis effect.
What? That's why Raichi, now a globe believer, would turn to Adam and say, you don't want me to go to the Coriolis effect.
Right, because she thinks she has the same case to build as she's trying to build with her upward rising Earth at the time.
Oh, to contrast with Arwen. Yes, I see what you mean now. Yes, indeed. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Sean Hawkins thinks you can blow on a paper.
Where did he get the gas pressure from in the first place?
Exactly. What does surface area mean?
doesn't matter. Nathan, have you seen this? The latest demonstration. Honestly, it was on flat side. I'm laughing my head off. If you could pay people to do stupid things, right? You wouldn't have. You don't have to give them a fair bit of gas pressure without a container, and he goes over a sheet of A4, mate. I wonder whether the next PhD will be citing this as another thing in any debates as to whether this is gas pressure without a container. Can you find it, Flatzoid?
I don't need to see it, but yes, I get the general gist. He's blowing on something with use of his lungs as a container to compress, to force air through his lips to blow the paper.
Over a sheet of paper in an already
existing gas pressure system.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. But point being, look at what these guys are producing for us. I mean, it's fantastic, really, that they're prepared to humiliate themselves in such a way as to demonstrate our point.
Yeah, I mean, using Bernoulli's principle to try and demonstrate gas pressure out of container, the whole principle requires surface area and pressure.
Meanwhile, is there any evidence that we can have an area of volume above our head, 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, with gas pressure not dispersing into it, violating natural law?
None at all.
Any evidence you can have gas
Yeah.
pressure without a container?
No.
Gas fills space.
Gas fills space. And what do they call the area above our head again in the heliocentric paradigm? Space.
A vacuum.
They call it space. Space, like a space, an area the gas could fill. Gas fills space, right? Yeah, it does. Space is fake. There is no vacuum above our head to send rockets to lights in the sky. Lights in the sky aren't soil and sand and water. They're just lights.
Well, I don't know if you get the same problem. They can't decide if Earth is open or closed.
Open in their rhetoric. What do you mean they can't decide? It's very clear. They send rockets outside of the gas pressure we are consuming currently to areas of 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. That is a non-contained violation of the second law of thermodynamics. So when they say they don't know if it's contained or not, it most assuredly isn't in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. It's a gas pressure gradient that's not contained, surrounded by vacuum. It's just straight up nonsense. Can't have that. It doesn't exist. The gas would fill the space.
Yeah, the whole idea that you can escape into space, but gas can't, is just weird.
Yeah, Adam's been pointing out the secular assertion that no, we do lose a certain amount of space. Oh, really? What, the helium and hydrogen, whatever it is, 1% of the overall atmosphere, and then 0.01% of that does actually escape into space. But I can give it in a number that's millions of tons. Therefore, we are actually having a 0.001% of the gases we actually experience following entropic law. So that solves the problem.
But following entropic law, but not following the invoked law of gravity, which is the supposed thing that's keeping them there. Those ones decide to not behave like that.
But you see, they usually try and argue on ignorance, try and say thermodynamics is only for isolated systems, and shows you the ignorance.
Well, they're strictly correct, aren't they? Because the second law of thermodynamics is a description. So, as a description, it oversimplifies itself by utilization of something that doesn't exist in the strictest of terms. There are no isolated systems, but they are specifically referred to in the second law of thermodynamics when detailing, in this example, dispersion, right? But they would also utilize ideal gases to describe gas behavior. Now, is there such a thing as an ideal gas? No, there is not. But in order to simplify what describes that which occurs always, we, with our limited scope of verbalization, utilize concepts like ideal gases and isolated systems to verbalize and convey that which occurs always. In this instance, gas fills space. Now, you can describe gas behavior with ideal gases and isolated systems to convey that notion by way of the second law of thermodynamics. Does that mean that the description, crude though it may be in this criticism, in any way fails to describe that which occurs always? No. It's a pathetic attempt to criticize our linguistic ability by way of a descriptive methodology. That's the second law of thermodynamics. What are the laws of thermodynamics? Descriptions of things that occur always. That's what they are. Gas fills space. There's no getting around it. Any scientific evidence of gravity, as it's come up a couple of times?
Which one are you looking for? There's a whole bunch of different gravities there.
The one that would keep gas held to the side of a spinning water ball flying through a sky vacuum in violation of natural law. Whichever one that is.
Well,
that one.
wouldn't you expect it to be a scientific hypothesis if it was scientific there?
That's why I asked.
Well, if it's a cause of gas sticking to a ball, then you're probably going to have to go with the force of gravity.
Oh, that doesn't work. You're begging the question of the effect. The effect you just described was water sticking to a spinning water ball. That's a straight up second law of thermodynamics violation as a claimed observed phenomena. No, we don't observe that as a phenomena. Quite the contrary. We've got a natural law that describes it. Quite the contrary.
Right, but it's not even their rhetoric anymore. They're supposed to be spouting Einstein. No, gravity isn't causing anything.
Well, you misunderstand.
Nathan.
Go on, flat sides.
Gravity causes gravity. Didn't you hear the latest? Gravity causes gravity.
It's kind of circular. I can paraphrase that into what the non-force of gravity gives rise to the non-force of gravity. Bending space-time gives rise to bending space-time. No. Einstein asserted a cause and effect relationship in his pseudo-geometry. His cause and effect relationship is the uneven distribution of mass, as described by him, causes the bending and warping of space-time. That's his cause and effect relationship. So to say that the uneven distribution of mass as a cause in this mathematics and fourth dimensional geometry causes the bending and warping of that fourth dimensional pseudo-geometry, and that in turn, as an effect, is a cause of a force of gravity. I know where you're going. It's Craig Fight the Flat Earth Woman Beater that's come up with this.
But what about gravitational waves then? How does that fit into the picture?
What's a gravitational wave beyond a pseudo-geometry description in Einsteinian mathematics? If you're asking me what it is in...
They're apparently measuring it in a device.
I knew you were going to do that. I was just about to say, you're trying to force me into the reification by way of an assertion that the descriptions in pseudo-geometry match up with observations. And by asking me what a gravitational wave is, you're trying to force me into a position where I accept the reification of the fourth dimensional pseudo-geometry as the observation that it's been correlated with. And I don't accept that by way of your very careful but very annoying phraseology, Arwin.
I can't get anything past you, can I?
Oh, no, you can't.
I'll give you
The
an
device. Oh, sorry, Adam. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll just give Owen an answer. It's a ripple in a concept.
No, doesn't look like that through my telescope, says Arwin.
You can't see it through your telescope. You can only describe it as a concept within a concept. That first concept being a ripple within the secondary concept of space-time being a medium.
How about if I either ascribe that concept within a concept to something that is then discovered after the concept's conception? That is to say, I see something and then ascribe that description to it. Alternatively, how about I conjure something for you in a man-made piece of apparatus? I could do either.
I'd accept that as fantastic superficial validation.
Done. There you go, Arwin. Should have gone there.
So time causes gravity to warp the space.
Time, no. Time is a dimension in fourth dimensional pseudo-geometry. So to say it's the cause is incorrect also. It's part of the geometry in Einstein's pseudo-Riemannian force space. Time is a dimension.
Exactly.
Arwin claimed a measurement a second ago. Is it LIGO that the measurement comes from?
I was trying to lead him subtly there. He didn't go there. He stayed silent. But you can basically spoon feed him this if you want, John. Go ahead, Arwin. A man-made quasi-phenomena, you say, John? Arwin's not playing.
No, it's a conceptual ripple measuring device.
Conceptual ripple measuring device, you say? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I'm convinced.
But the fundamentals of how they built this measuring device that they're claiming, didn't they create it level using a river or some water
it's a
running
man-made
next
canal
to
that they've dug out next to it. There's like
So
a
they
mile and a
use
half
the
stretch.
horizontal plane.
How long's LIGO? Like a mile and a half or something?
That innit?
Running alongside it, there's a man-made canal utilised to level the tool that's going to conjure this man-made phenomena.
Right, and LIGO is perfectly straight, right?
From my understanding,
There is no perfectly straight spots on a sphere.
no, there isn't.
Wait. So you guys are saying level doesn't curve?
Spheres don't have the ability to give you an assertion of level because they don't have it.
If you want to measure a ripple in a concept, you're going to need a very long but straight flat arm. It's the only way to measure ripples in concepts. They're bent, it don't work right.
There is a context to this that we need to understand, though. When Einstein predicted gravitational waves would someday be detected, and then LIGO was built at massive expense. I think it's something like $7 billion of taxpayers' money to measure the ripples in space-time. And then they come back eventually and say, woohoo, we've proved Einstein right. The anti-flat earthers will never cite this unless pushed into a corner because it goes directly against the gravity force Newtonian nonsense. But they all know it exists. They don't like citing it, though. But if they do cite it, you've got to be wary because what Einstein and the bending of space-time and LIGO is said to be doing is proving one up against quantum mechanics. They're trying to prove that quantum mechanics is wrong, but they're not trying to prove that Newton's wrong. They all know that Newton's wrong. They're trying to get one up on quantum mechanics. And that's the reason why LIGO exists, to try and thwart quantum mechanics. But if they bring that back to you and say, well, we know that Ripley space-time and bendy nonsense and all that, whatever they come back to and say that, you've got to understand that that's the current position in science, right? Not that we agree with it, not that we disagree with it, but that's considered to be the current position. And then quantum mechanics will pop their head up and say, actually, we've debunked that in 1925 with our full equations. And then there's an argument between quantum mechanics and Einstein. And from our perspective, we don't care. It doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. It doesn't matter if quantum mechanics is right or wrong. It does not matter. What we're concerned about is that gravity is not a force, that Einstein superseded it. And whether quantum mechanics superseded Einstein or not isn't our argument. It does not matter. So they'll never bring up quantum mechanics or Einstein because both of them go directly against Newtonian nonsense. But just be aware that it exists. It's a stepping stone to invalidating their nonsense model where Newton said that there was a force acting on stuff. They'll never argue it against you. They'll always revert back to Newton. But just be aware that contextually, it matters that you understand where it fits in. LIGO is said to prove curvy space-time, making it no longer conceptual. It's now, quote, scientific evidence of bendy space-time. And who are we to argue that, right? But they're not trying to debunk Newton. They're trying to debunk quantum mechanics. But the fact that that exists, we need to understand that it does debunk Newton, and they're trying to debunk quantum mechanics, and it doesn't matter to us whether they win or not. So as long as we understand that, we're winning.
But with LIGO, how can you use level as the horizontal plane to create the most perfectly straight measuring device in the world? How are you going to use Earth is flat to prove anything about heliocentrism?
You redefine the term level so that it's synonymous with the word equidistant. So if you think that level and equidistant are synonymous, then you can think that you've got a bent curve straight line.
It's not bent, it's straight.
No, it's a bent curved straight line.
Doesn't conform to the shape of the Earth if you're a heliocentrist.
No, it does according to my one dictionary definition that says that level and curved are the same.
I've got a question based on LIGO there. If you stand on the one side and on the other side, do they have different plumb lines?
Well, that's why they've got that definition for...
Just kind of that slide. You're asking, are plums not plum? That's what you're asking, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, this is where they then say, well, plum is only plum in that one location. If I take one step either side of you, my plum is not the same as your plum.
Again, violating the definition of it.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
gee,
'cause
that's false
Plumber-
though, because they made a perfectly level, straight line. If they're claiming it still has different zenith angles, then they're lying about making it perfectly straight. Then which one is it?
But for any
Of course.
two lines to be plumb, they will also, by commensurately, be parallel to each other.
Exactly.
So this is where they go into the parallel postulate, and they argue that there's no reason on earth that the parallel postulate should be a law of nature, because nature doesn't need to comply with any geometrical limitations. And Einstein himself said that there's no reason why we should follow Euclidean geometry in the real world, because nature doesn't need geometry. Nature just does what nature does.
Cop
So
out.
by saying that, say again.
So what? Cop out.
Euclidean geometry is derived from nature.
Oh, of course it's a cop out. But the problem is, if you don't use geometry,
it's a lie.
yeah, because if you don't use Euclidean geometry, you can't calculate shit for anything. You can't calculate the stars in the sky, applying the
It's derived from nature. You see, you don't need maths. You don't have maths first. You have geometry, and you can derive that algebraically. Those axioms are derived from nature.
Yeah, but you haven't got algebra or geometry if you're using non-Euclidean geometry. You've got nothing. You've just got an extra something that's like Bev says. You've just not got Euclidean geometry. You've got something else. But you can't do anything with it. You can't calculate the distance to the sun applying the assumptions from Cassini and Huygens. You can't do any of that if you're not using Euclidean geometry.
Yeah.
So what use is it?
Yes. Yeah, but you're spot on. But that's where it's derived, and what you're saying can be summarized by you'll need a flat Earth for that, because it's by the name of this first time this is accurately applied in terms of Adam's argument. That's where the literal etymology of geometry is directly relevant of the Earth in terms of the measurement. That's where it's derived. So in terms of you saying, well, you're going to be using your Euclidean geometry if you're using your non-Euclidean geometry, it means it is derived from the same origin, a flat Earth. Go ahead, Adam, and then we're going to move on to Tinfoil Hatman.
I wasn't talking to Tony. I was talking to, was it Einstein? You said Euclidean's not for the use of on the Earth. Well,
yeah, Einstein said that there's no reason that nature would pick any particular geometry at all, and he is right. That would be true, but if you want to measure
fallacy, nature's not picking anything. We're deriving it from nature. We're deriving it from the nature. We are instigating this convention, not nature. Nature's not picking anything. That's a reification fallacy.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying what they come back with their rebuttals, and then you got to respond to it, and you got to know that argument for what to say next.
Indeed.
Then it comes down to they put two dots on a piece of paper, and they say, "What's the shortest distance between these 2 points?" And you'll say a straight line, and then they'll bend the paper back on itself in like a magnet shape, and then they'll say, "But I can now make that much shorter by warping space-time and creating a wormhole." And that's how ridiculous it becomes. You've reduced it to
conceptualizing. No, when they bend that paper, they're taking you through the process that we've covered on many video response videos to fourth dimensional pseudo geometry, scaled up to 10th dimensions in some instances, where they're taking the two-dimensional straight line shortest distance on a two-dimensional construct and then bending it into 3 dimensions. That's the metaphorical equivalent of them saying you as a two-dimensional playing card character wouldn't have a digestive system because it would bifurcate your body. But you can conceptualize you as a two-dimensional person. For instance, walking along to an obstruction and not being able to go around it because you haven't got a third dimension. You can only go over it or under it. Okay, but then you, as you described, you bend the paper, you're putting it into a third dimension. That is directly how they quantify the conceptual medium of fourth dimensional pseudo space-time. They take the exact same path, but obviously they can't bend your length, breadth, and depth into a quasi-fourth dimension by bending a piece of paper. But they have to get you to conceptualize that process first by doing it the way you have. And that is quite literally the description of a wormhole in fourth dimension Einsteinian rhetoric. That's exactly what they do, because they're bending the fourth dimensional space-time through a geodesic in Einsteinian quasi-geometry. But it's geometry nonetheless. Back over to Adam.
But on that sheet of paper,
it goes one step further though, Nathan, because what they then say is, well, now you've just demonstrated how the straight line on that piece of paper, by bending the paper, the straight line remains being straight on the paper, but because you've bent the geometry that the line and the paper are in, it appears to be curved. It is curved, but it's actually straight. And they get you, that's how they word it, so that they try and get you to accept a curved line can be straight.
Yes, it's a geodesic. Okay, go. I don't know if Adam wanted to get something in, but go ahead, John. Was it John?
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't matter if you fold that sheet of paper in half. If you want to draw a line between those 2 points, you're still going to have to unfold the paper, take your pencil, and draw the line. You could ball it up. Yeah.
Remember, they don't, according to PhD George Musa, they don't have to work at the really is level. So in their nonsense, at their level, they can do that. But in real terms, real world, you know that's nonsense. It's a folly.
Yeah, but the description John's just given, if you puncture a pencil through the 2 points that are folded over, that's a wormhole. If you can conceptualize that in fourth dimensional terms with bent geodesics in space-time rather than bent pieces of paper, what you've just described is a wormhole.
Yeah, but the points still aren't connected.
No, I know they're not. This is completely conceptual. Absolutely not. Your correctness does not get superseded by us conveying the garbage nonsense of pseudo-geometry. It doesn't undermine what you're saying. If anything, it highlights the absurdity of it, in my opinion. Maybe it doesn't for some globe-believing audience members. They might be nodding while we're saying this and chuckling.
But we all have our line in the sand that we draw to where it becomes ridiculous. And at some point, we're all naturally going to draw it and say, that's just retarded. And then they say something like, oh, well, just because you don't understand it doesn't make it not so. And that's when they claim their victory. But at some point, you do have to draw the line in the sand and say, this is ridiculous. Because they're allowed, according to PhD George Musa, to work at the not really is level. Well, at that level, yes, wormholes do exist because they're conceptual. You know, you can come up with an argument or an explanation for why they exist and why they must be true. But ultimately, there's no such thing as a wormhole. You can't teleport to Pluto in the vacuum of space with a wormhole. They don't exist.
No, it sounds great. But, okay, right, well, I've got to draw a line somewhere.
It sounds brilliant.
Anthony, right, tinfoil that man's been in the wings. Either.
Present and correct, sir.
I think Adam's got something to tail off the last point with.
It was only just on screen to properly draw a line under it. The Greek roots of geometry literally mean to measure Earth. There, line drawn.
Yeah, in terms of its origins and the context of this discussion, that doesn't fall under an etymological fallacy. That's strictly the case in both instances. Absolutely right, Adam. We've been called up on this in the past when we directly correlate the use of geometry with Earth measurement, which isn't the case. But in terms of its origins, which is how we're detailing it here, it does, and it directly relates to non-Euclidean Einsteinian fourth-dimensional pseudo-geometry, where it's based, and to argue that you're not going to use it because the world doesn't decide what geometry is used, it's a total cop-out. Adam says it's a lie. I agree with him. Right, we've rounded out that point, Anthony, unless you've got something desperate you must add.
Not really, no, I just like explaining the context of LIGO.
Fine, we have. Right, Tinfoil Hatman, feel free to present. I know you're going to present on the Google Hangout initially, and then just tell me when you want a nice high-res picture of whatever you're showing. I'll do that with a transition. You'll have to bear with me, it'll take a couple of seconds. But the floor's all yours if you want to present your screen or a tab in your screen.
Sound.
Dun, 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 dun. Let me know when you're ready.
Present and correct, all ready.
Brilliant.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from here in the UK. Welcome to Reflection Wednesday. It is Wednesday, isn't it, Adam? As usual, much love and respect to everyone in the Tuesday panel, all of those in Discord, and all of you watching on YouTube. I keep hearing comments to the effect of me being boring. This upsets me, and I blame Nathan for this. Nathan, you're cramping my style, man. You're cramping my style. Furthermore, then, before I begin this week's boring presentation, and in an attempt to combat the wholly unwarranted disinformation that seems to be flying around about me, I'd like to show you all the following. Please note that you will absolutely not be able to unsee what you are about to see.
Hang on, I haven't checked that this isn't pornographic. It's not pornographic, is it?
Just deal with it, Nathan. You might want to check your volumes, though. So before I roll this tape, then, Nathan, do you recall from a previous presentation I was telling you that I was a proud owner of a Mexican sombrero hat?
Yeah, I definitely remember that conversation. Yeah.
Useful for keeping sun reflections off the truth seeker's lens. You remember
yes.
this?
Yes, I do remember now.
Okay, let me show you the hat.
Why?
Because it's important.
Okay.
Stop cramping his style.
Okay, so this is trust me, I have a personality. Okay, we're all good.
No.
We're all sitting and watching you dance as a Mexican. I find this
Yes.
highly offensive. I'm quarter
Deal with it.
Mexican.
Na, 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 na.
Wait, I want to see the
Na,
dancing.
na, na,
Hold
na,
on.
na, na. Na, 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 na.
No fair. Last week he wanted to sing the John Lennon song and got shut down.
Look, I'm sorry,
Yes.
audience members. This is happening whether you like it or not, it seems. Okay, well, this is great.
Yes. Told you. Deal with it. Okay.
We can't unsee what we have just seen. Thank you for sharing that.
More than welcome. But there's the Mexican sombrero hat. Okay, enough of this boring nonsense then, yeah? On with the show. Let's go to this. I'm sure you're all aware of this, but for anybody new that might be seeing this, this is our location, Gold Cliff. I'll just turn that volume down. I'm just going to show you where we're looking today. Okay, so we are going to be focusing and concentrating, basically, if you can see my mouse, over here. And we're going to pan over and look over here. So very briefly then, this is the Truth Seeker telescope. It's important to note that when setting the scope's height and level, a horizontal plane of reference must be used to ascertain these two vitally important prerequisites. So before we even begin looking then, welcome to Flat Earth. Earth is provably, demonstrably, and observably flat. Okay, so we're at 1 meter observer height, directly on the seabed. This presentation will bring to a close the final 8 minutes of this very first Gold Cliff observation. So, shall we go to the main event video, Nathan?
Yeah, did you want me to bring it up on a bigger picture?
Yeah, if you want to go full
go
screen
ahead.
with
Just
it.
assume I've got it up and running. I'll start it. Is there early timestamps that you want me to stop at?
Yeah, so the first video timestamp, Nathan, is 51 seconds. So if you start the video, we should be looking at the St. George's flag that we were looking at and ended with last week. If that's right.
I'll just rearrange the framing slightly, but yes, that's where we're starting out on the George Cross.
Yeah, so this is the remaining 8 minutes of that entire 35-minute 4K 30 frames a second video. And I can actually see the live stream now, Nathan, so I think a few issues have been ironed out here. So
perfect. When did you say the first timestamp is? 40-something seconds?
51, so we're looking for 51 seconds as being the first timestamp. This is the section that we were looking at last week. Do you remember the Mariners Lake with the heads bobbing up and down? It was about 7.5 miles distance, something like that.
Okay, so I'm at 51 seconds now.
Okay, so there's quite a significant delay then with the live stream, but if you should be looking at Clevedon Lookout Tower, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I've included a link for anyone who's interested in reading up on that. Hopefully, B with a buzz will post everything to Discord as he's done previously, and massive thanks to B and all the moderators that have been helping me, by the way. So pics 2 and 3 in Master B showing a 7-mile distance to that banking just in front of that tower at 0 meter elevation. So I don't know if you want to go to this and show the audience this, or whether you just want to keep it running smooth and just those pictures will be made available. I'm sure B will make them all available, but they're in Master B anyway.
Sure. There's a whole string of them. So where is it? First one posted?
It's pictures 2 and 3. So pictures 2 and 3 are just showing that there's a 7-mile distance to the banking, just in front of that tower.
Okay,
0 meter elevation.
You got your picture. Is it just the first Google image in the list?
Yes. Yeah, the first Google Earth 3D.
Okay, that's
picture.
Up now. Yeah, I got that now.
Okay, like I said, there's a massive delay on live stream, but anyway, so what you should be seeing is a 7-mile distance at the right-hand side, effectively 0 meter elevation. At the bottom right.
Cool.
So if you load the next pickup in Master B, Nathan, that should be showing the elevation that the tower's actually sat on. Do you see this?
Next photo along.
Yep, next one in Master B. It should basically just show you 4 or 5 meters elevation to the lookout tower.
Yep.
And then the next picture in Master B.
Earth curve calculator.
Yeah, so it's showing nearly 5 meters would be hidden if the globe model was true. Does anyone know how it's possible to see what we're seeing on a 3959 mile radius ball with an 8 inches per mile squared curvature drop?
Yeah, I do. It's called infinite amounts of ever so conveniently variable refraction. That's how we see it. It's always just the right amount of refraction to explain it within a reasonable amount. So no matter what you say, it's always going to be.
Welcome to Refraction Wednesday, Anthony.
And note the refraction can change direction.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing.
Okay, so I'll play on now. What's the next time
stamp? Yeah, next video timestamp is 1 minute and 12 seconds, so it's not long, Nathan. I think we were around 51 seconds, so 1 minute and 12 seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit St. Andrew's Church. You'll see that at the top. And again, precisely the same principle, showing 7.08 mile distance to the seabed in front of that church. Again, effectively 0 meter elevation. So like I say, there's a big delay. So are you on 1 minute 12 yet, Nathan?
Yeah, I've paused it on it. I'm just panning up and down because I've got it obviously blown up quite considerably.
Yeah, I can see what you're doing now. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, very same principle. We don't need to go to Master B, but again, there's a Google Earth 3D picture just showing those details for anybody that wants to check that out. Next video timestamp would be 1 minute.
Just so we flow a bit better, we'll stick with just the footage all the way through for now, and then I'll go back and put the historic information at the end.
Sure, I'll just tell you what that information is then. Yes.
Yeah. So just say in Master B, and then at the end I'll flick through them once we've got to the end of the video.
Yeah, that works great. No problem.
Okay, so we're on 112 now. What's the next timestamp?
So we're looking for 128. So again, not too long before we hit that. And what we're going to hit is Clevedon Harbour area. So in Master B, picture 8 shows 7.5 mile distance to the bottom of the bank. You'll see a very nice resolve there. So we're actually looking at the bank on the right-hand side.
Yep, got that.
Okay.
Can I point some out?
Yeah, sure.
You know when you've got it playing, you can see there's like a wavy effect, and what that is like you're clearly looking through the medium, and it's the effects of the medium, right? That's what refraction really is in the real world. That slight movement that you see.
Yeah, that wavering. Yeah,
that's real world refraction. It's not 7/6R. It's not curving, but the movements that you see, like Skunk Bay, that's how minuscule it is. So when we say that the effects of refraction are negligible, you're seeing it right now, guys.
Yeah.
Just say it's dirty. Go on.
Oh, do you know I've so forgotten about that phrase? It is
waiting for that too.
It's what? I didn't hear that. What did he say?
You didn't hear it because you've got to be in the you got to be in the group to understand the gag.
Oh, I'm not in the club. I'm not in the club.
No, it's just what Anthony calls that. It's just his title for it. So it's not really an in-joke if you just say it now, Anthony.
Well, it was just because I didn't know what word to use to describe what we were looking at when we were looking at Isle of Man, because we don't have terminology to describe what we're looking at. They've got all the terminology in the world, and of course, dare we ever question it? But when we're looking at something else that we don't know what we're looking at, we need a word for that. And some people would call that word maybe gravity or whatever. But I didn't know what word to look at to use to describe what I was looking at. But that shimmering effect, that's refraction.
Oh, he's not going to say it.
Dirty air.
Dirty air.
Dirty air. Are you saying
dirty air? Yeah. Because we know we're not looking at the actual thing in a vacuum, are we? We're looking through a swimming pool. All right, it's a 30-mile long swimming pool, but fluids and liquids and gas behave in the same way. They cause things to change and vary, and that's what we're looking through
and stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's a soup.
Yeah. Well, you see on the right-hand side of what Nathan's paused on here is a really nice resolve. I really like it. But the picture in Master B that we'll look at the end is just showing on the right-hand side. You see where that black resolve in the foreground goes right down, just at the right-hand side of the image. So we're just shooting actually to the rocky bank. So you're talking about 7.5 mile distance, 0 meter elevation to the deck, where the rocky section is, in the background. So next time stamp is 1:41, Nathan. Again, we're going to be looking at Clevedon Harbour area. All of this section is Clevedon Harbour area. So 1:41.
Yep.
Okay. And just for reference, again, it must be, we'll go through at the end, pick 10, it must be. The hill in the background, if you go up, Nathan, that's over 16 miles away. And then obviously you've got all your layering down, from that point down to 0 meter elevation just before the banking. You see all that? You see all that resolve? It's just interesting to note that, those hills are over 16 miles away in the background. And then in the foreground, because we're now panning right and the distances are now starting to recede, they're getting greater. But you're talking over 7.5 miles to the front of the banking. You see? Hopefully you're seeing all this.
Yeah.
It's a very, very long delay on live stream. Right. Okay. So next video timestamp, Nathan, would be 2:26. Now, I think 2:26, I'm pretty sure I've got this wrong. Initially, I thought this was Wood Spring Priory. You'll see. It's like a tower. But I think it's a bit too early in the pan for Wood Spring Priory now, looking back at it. So at any point, if anybody goes through this or analyzes this or finds anything that, I'm incorrect about, please do just, let me know, because It's not always just quite easy. You know, sometimes you think you're looking at something, but I'm pretty sure it's not that now, to be honest with you. But we're now going up in distance, like I say, whatever that is, it's like probably not more like 9 miles now. So 2 minutes 26, Nathan.
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's just coming into live stream now.
Well, you know what you're going to look, so just there's a delay. Just if I say yeah, we're there, just assume we are.
No worries. So there's 9. If that's not Woodspring Priory, which I'm pretty sure it's not, I reckon it's just something just a bit before, which will be around the 9 mile to the deck in front, the banking. So next timestamp would be 3 minutes and 34 seconds. That is, we're just going to hit a water buoy or a marker. I don't know. I don't have any pics in Master B for that. I didn't have time to try and figure out what it was and what its distance is, but it's a few miles on the deck, though. So around 2 minutes 26, Nathan, you should see it. And also, if you bear in mind as well now, because if I don't know if you recall last week, I was just talking to you about the fact that
what's the next timestamp?
I was running out of battery, so I'm panning a bit faster now.
What's the next timestamp?
4 minutes. Sand Bay Beach area.
4 minutes.
Yep, 4 minutes.
Okay, we've got a whole minute to go.
That's video timestamp 7. Did we just hit the water buoy? Did we see that? Yeah?
I'm watching the timestamps, so I'm now looking for 4 minutes.
Yeah, no worries. 4 minutes is Sand Bay Beach area that's coming up, and it's the rocks. It's the end of the land jutting out. So if you can just let me know once we've hit that 4 minute point, Nathan.
Will do.
But you'll see that it's actually now the start of land jutting out. And again, I'll show you that properly in Master B at the end. But what we're going to be looking at is in Google Earth, it shows 7 meters to the top of that end rock at just short of 11 miles. So.
Okay, we're there. At that rock.
Do you see that Sand Bay Beach area land rocks, yes? Jutting out?
Yes.
Like I say, 7 meters to the top of that end rock, just short of 11 miles. So there's pick 15 in Master B, which is back to the fraudulent Omni calculator. It shows 15 meters of Earth curve must be hiding that. And that end rock is 7 meters. And to the right of it, if you just stay in that area roughly, now you have to be very, very quick. But basically, you'll start to see to the right what I believe is Bimbeck Pier. So you'll see like it's getting a bit more fainter in terms of its clarity and its outlining. But that's the distance behind that Sand Bay Beach area land rock jutting out of 13 miles, and that pier has a top elevation apparently of 19 meters. So again, pick 19 in Master B. That's showing the assumed 3959 mile radius deceitful Omni calculator. 24 meters must be hidden. And then even then there's another picture I put in. Even Walter Bislin's perspective hijacking, Earth curve hijacking calculator, showing that none of that can be visible, even with his stupid standard refraction applied. Yeah, so you still should not be seeing that. Are you seeing that faint outline there?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
that
that
couple of seconds till I could get a reasonably clear image of it. But yeah, got it.
Yeah.
What's the next time?
Sorry. Oh, by the way, that's not withstanding the fact that Walter Bislin actually uses a horizontal surface level as the basis for that fraudulent calculator. Where's he getting that horizontal from?
Earth, which is flat. What's the next timestamp?
4 minutes 29, Nathan.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're doing a similar thing. We're now going to be looking at breen down land rocks jutting out. Further again, obviously, in the distance. So once we hit 4 minutes and 29 seconds, excuse me, you should see breen down land rocks jutting out 15.5 miles distance now, around 4 meters elevation around the bottom of those rocks. You seeing this? And I do actually zoom in on this section as well, Nathan. You see? So 15.5 miles distance. How come we're seeing that? Earth is flat. Those stupid calculators I've just referenced say that 36 meters must be hidden behind Earth's curvature. Nathan, do you have any concept of how high 36 meters actually is versus 4 meters? Do you know what I mean?
About a 10-story building, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a cliff.
Yet we see those rocks resolving down to the seabed. It's like 36 meters.
What's the next timestamp?
Crazy stuff.
Listen, I just want to point out on the live stream right now, there's a very slight curve to the horizon. Earth curve right there.
Yeah, I've seen it. Wouldn't be sandbanks, would it?
Right. Tony,
It's Earth curve, isn't it?
are you claiming the horizon's Earth curve?
Of course. You can see it on screen.
Guys, while you
It's right
discuss
there.
this, I just want to get to a
Left
good
to
image.
right curvature.
Hold on. Thank you. Funny though it is. What's the next timestamp?
Next timestamp is, well, from 4 minutes 29 to 5 minutes and 3 seconds. What we're going to be doing now is panning across to the first isle. It's the first of 2 isles. It's Steephorm, and if you'll notice, it's still dry seabed. Do you see this? As we pan now right, and from 4 minutes 29 seconds to 5 minutes and 3, we're now panning across to that first isle. Still dry seabed. And if you just stop it on the, well, you should see it. The left-hand side of that, pics 26 and 27 in Master B, they're showing over 16 miles distance to the left-hand side of that Steephorm isle, and then 16.5 miles to the right-hand side of that isle. 0 meter elevation to the deck. According to Omni Calculator, that fraudulent calculator again, that's 41 meters hidden, according to the heliocentric model. And that isle, Steephorm, is 78 meters at its highest point, according to Wikipedia.
Quick shout out. Sorry to interrupt you. Just a quick shout out to Billy Philly 22, who says these observational breakdowns are a favourite of mine. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for the super chat. And I'm sure Tinfoil Hatman takes that as a massive compliment, as he's been getting hammered in the comments by people saying he's too dry.
Yes, thank you very much, Billy Philly. That's great. Thank you. So yeah, that isle, Nathan, Steephorm, is 78 meters at its highest point, and it's 16.5 miles away. 41 meters, over 41 meters, needs to be hidden if the globe model is true. It's clearly not, is it? And there's a pic 28 that I put into Master B, which shows the distance to the land in the background as well, right? Because there is land in the background. That's nearly 30 miles away. It's just so clearly then we don't live on a ball. Earth is flat. Period. Full stop. End of story. Game over. Right.
Next timestamp.
So around 5 minutes and 35 seconds, Nathan. I've no idea what that is. It's small, and I zoom in on it, I'm going to presume it's a buoy, a marker, a fishing hook. I've no Master B reference picture for it, but whatever it is, it's on the deck, and whatever it is, it's some distance away. Maybe if someone's interested, maybe they can try and find out potentially what that is, because I've also put into Master B a nautical map, an admiralty chart for that Bristol Channel area, which is like displaying fishing hooks and various, navigational aids that are needed. But yeah, I can't. I haven't had the time either to even try and figure out what that is. But I'm gonna suggest it's some sort of marker buoy fishing hook that's on the deck, and I'm going to suggest it's a long, long way away. If Steep Home is 16.5 miles on the right hand side, I'm going to suggest it's pretty far away. That.
Okay.
Next time stamp. So over to Flathorn Isle now, right? And wait for it, Flathorn Lighthouse. So this is a full circle.
I need the timestamp because otherwise I'm just on a boring picture.
Okay, so just if you play from 5:35 and then you want to be stopping at 6 minutes 38, I think. Oh, hang on a minute. No, before 6 minutes. You'll just hit if you play it, you'll just hit Flathorn Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Which was my very first presentation. You remember?
Yeah.
Did you notice that we were still over dry bed as we were panning still to that on the left-hand side? As we hit that isle, do you see the water? It's in the foreground, but that's still dry bed. Yeah. Then we hit the left-hand side of it, and you see all that in front. That's all dry bed up until that watermark in the foreground. Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay, right. So I'm not going to labour this point, right? Because that was the first presentation. It was just as a reminder, though, that lighthouse is 30 meters tall. It's got a focal height of 50 meters. So over 14 miles distance to that isle, right? What's more interesting now, though, is what's on the right-hand side of the isle. And as that video plays and pans, you'll also see like quite a massive, pronounced sandbank in front of it. And then once we hit the right-hand side of the isle, Nathan, at around 6 minutes 38, finally, we hit the water level. So do you see this? So around 6 minutes 38, huge delay on live stream. So, but you as we pan, you should be seeing like a really pronounced sandbank or earth curve, if you prefer. And then if you pause it on the right hand side around 6 minutes and 38, then you'll be able to we'll be able to see what's happening there then now with the start of the water level.
Just while you're doing that, a quick question. So that the lighthouse, the height of the lighthouse was 30 meters, but it sits 50 meters above sea level. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Above high water level, apparently, according to Wikipedia. But I think if you go and have a look at sort of different resources, because it's all about time, isn't it?
I might have to approximate that. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, approximately. I mean, I think there might be some
3-to-2 ratio in terms of the height of the lighthouse, and then the corresponding height of the cliffs would be 2/3 of that. Yeah, so that's pretty much what's being described to me in that image. So all I can see is a tiny bit of like dirty air layer, and you can see a slight bit of mirroring above the sandbank, and just if you go to the left-hand edge of the cliff, you can just see where it starts to mirror the last tiny little bit. So I think he's continuing up to there. You can take a little bit off the cliff height, and then you can see all the way to the bottom of the cliff to the mirroring, and that's about 20 meters. If that lighthouse is about 30 meters, that seems commensurate with what's described. The image, I don't see any obstruction. A little bit of mirroring on the bottom, but nothing else.
I assume we're not talking about the exact same bit because you're talking about the lighthouse, but this is the piece of land it's on with the sandbank in front of it that we're currently paused on. So I'm on the last time state you gave me 638.
Yeah, I can see that you're on, Nathan. So do you see now as we start to pan right, now we've actually got the start of the water level? Yes. So as you can see from that image on the left-hand side, you'll see that sandbank dropping down. And then now, again, that's about 14.5 miles away. And then now, as we pan right, we're now going to be following the water level.
Don't pan. Can we just focus on that just for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is water up to a sandbank that's jutting out, and then behind the sandbank, I can see the water continue up to that 3/4 of the height of the sandbank up to the next shoreline. You can see the continuance of the water level past the sandbank as it juts out. So you can see water up to the sandbank and then water past the sandbank.
I think what Adam's pointing out is in terms of the perspective representation, it's rising up in your field of view as it could only do on a flat plane, as opposed to something that was obscured and then blocked by whatever else, water or otherwise, was in the foreground. The way this presents itself could only be replicated if Earth was flat. It only can present itself in this manner if Earth is flat. And the presentation that it would give you if Earth was spherical, with a physical leading edge blocking your view of everything behind it, could not present itself in this manner. Ergo, at whatever distance there is claimed to be a physical geometric sphere edge, everything beyond that, which is pretty close in this instance, is just a mirage of everything behind that, and so on and so forth.
But here in this image, you're clearly seeing the resolve, aren't you? Of that sandbank. And now the start of the water level as we're gonna now finally finish panning.
What's next timestamp?
Sorry?
Next timestamp. If I'm going to press play, I just want to know when I'm going to stop so I don't go over it.
Yeah, sure. So literally now, this is the final part, and we are gonna hit. Hang on a minute.
I just need the number.
7 minutes and 6 seconds.
Thank you,
Nathan. But notice the land in the background as we pan. And once we hit 7 minutes, 6 seconds, well, that land in the background is 30 to 35 miles away. So how can that horizon water level be Earth curve? This is Monkstone Lighthouse. If we've arrived there, Nathan.
Yes, we have.
Okay. So at 7, so as it stands at 7 minutes 6 seconds, that's me not zoomed in. And if you scroll up and down, do you see, well, I don't know. You can see the land in the background, yes?
Yes.
Well, let's watch it. That's 35 miles away. That's like 200-300 meter hills in the background. Then you've got your horizon, your water level. Then you've got Monkstone Lighthouse, which again, all the information's in Master B. So Monkstone Lighthouse is 23 meters high. That distance to the lighthouse is over 12 miles. And according to the information that I've found, it sits on elevator. It's directly into the seabed, but it sits on an elevation of some rocks. But it's literally just sat there on its own in the, directly down onto the seabed, but with a bit of elevation. And then the actual lighthouse itself is 23 meters.
Here you go. Hold on. Stop a second. This is it. This is the one. This is the one you ballers can get your teeth into. Because there it is. A demarcation point that you can claim is a physical geometric sphere edge obstruction to this lighthouse. And you can claim how much refraction is going to be claimed with respect to the geometric limitation that's clearly demarcated and is reified by you as Earth curve. This is the first one I've seen so far in this entire list of observations that a globe believer would get a bit moist for.
That's
Rufus
it.
going to start calculating horizons right now with this picture.
Well, that's it. I'm done.
Shall I ask Rufy in advance before he starts doing that? How's that geometric horizon working out for you, buddy? Good? Yeah, chop chop. Let's see the maths on this.
Sorry, go on.
I just want to see how much of a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a lighthouse this is in their mathematics.
Is he going to say the lighthouse built on the land?
I don't see the rocks. Do you see the rocks, Adam?
I see no rocks.
I see no
lighthouse.
rocks. I think they're obscured by a physical geometric limitation to your view called Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, plus the refraction of the day.
What I see is hills in the background at 35 miles distance, Monkstone Lighthouse at over 12 miles distance. And if you go and mess around with those stupid calculators, and I see horizon sea level, which was that previously known as Earth curve or something, Nathan?
Not at all. I'm going to go completely the other end, the other way. I'm going to say.
You want to go the other way?
Yeah, man. I'm going to say this is a perfect globe proof.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go that far just to bait our audience.
You had the height of the tower wrong. Remember, like Rufy said that the ship was on the dock. That means it's not a black swan.
Well, if you're not interested in this, Nathan, I can always sing for you. I'm quite happy to do this.
Is there any more timestamps, or is this the last one?
That's it. I'm done. If you just let the video play out, you'll see that we just hit the point where there is physical limitation obstruction, so I can't pan any further right. So if you just let that play out, it's literally, I think, just a few more seconds, and then that's the end of the entire almost 180-degree pan from that first train, just above Seabank Power Station, and we've done a 36 minute, just short of 4K 30 FPS pan right down, and the last little section that contains Monkstone Lighthouse at the right of Flatholm Isle is just your water. All of a sudden, that's then just your water in your horizon now, with that land distance in the background. And that.
Okay.
That's how I'm done.
As
Can I ask something?
You can, just before I tell people just administratively what I'm going to do next. So, obviously, we've been going through this on the original video, but what I'm going to do now is bring up the Skype version, which is obviously lower fidelity, but I'll just flick through so you can cross-reference it historically with the detailed verbal information that was given during the presentation with the stuff I'm putting on screen now. So you chat away. I'm just going to flick through them. Go ahead, Arwin.
Okay, yeah, I had a question to Tinfoil Hatman about that footage. I keep seeing on it this, well, what seems almost like a light that's like outside of the circle of the camera. What is that?
That's lens flare that's coming in and reflecting on the eyepiece.
Ah, okay, because it looked really weird, like almost like the sun is outside of the frame but still visible. That was weird.
Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, depending on the sort of angle of pan and how the
you're
sun is
looking
just
through the telescope. And if you're looking at a star and you get that effect, that lens flare, number one, it's obvious because it's outside the field of view of the circle of the peripheral view of the telescope. So it's pretty obvious that it's not something in your field of view, but you can perceive some part of it to be in the image, and sometimes you can get it to look like a UFO and stuff. It's quite cool.
If you put it over the moon, you can pretend you see an ether.
Yeah.
It just looked to me like, oh, the sun is there. It's just outside of the field of view, but still visible somehow. That's how it
Yeah.
looked.
Well, you can't be outside of the field of that circle. You know, that's your scope. If you've got some aberration up here somewhere, then it's pretty obvious when you're looking through it, when you're in the presence of the scope. But because in terms of what I'm presenting on screen now, well, your field of view is the frame of this whole screen, isn't it? Your field of view isn't, because if you're watching it with all of the suggested videos around it, that's your field of view. And if you're watching just the picture in full screen, then the field of view isn't even that, because you've got a list of Discord members. But if you just look at the picture, the field of view contains this black bit. No, that's the inside of the telescope. So it's only the stuff in the circle that is actually what you're looking at. And even if some aberration ends up overlapping that circle, when you're looking through the lens of the telescope or at the iPhone, familiarised with what it would look like if your eye was up against the lens, it's pretty obvious that it's not part of what you're looking at. It's just not when it's a photo or a video.
All right, thanks for clarifying.
No problem, but it's unbelievable footage, no? 36 minutes of just 180-degree pan almost. Finally incorporating at the end the water, the high water level.
Yeah, that's what I want to check. So that lighthouse at the end, what was it? 13 miles.
12.03 miles from the observer height, 1 meter.
1 meter. I'll put 6 foot. Well, that's fine. I'll change it.
While you're mumbling through that, I hope the audience
Yeah.
appreciates, because I don't know, they won't see this. Maybe we did a bit of it in the live show. We're still live, by the way. It's been presented much better than it looks now. So although I'm scrapping my way through so you can see comparatively what we had up on a nice big image, I've cropped it and zoomed it off a 4K image that I'm presenting on my own screens locally, so that what you've ended up with in big screen on YouTube is hopefully as high a quality as it can be. So appreciate the effort that's been gone to. If you're watching, please share the show.
Adam, you can't put 6 feet. That's totally dishonest. It needs to be at least 60.
Yeah.
Add 2 zeros on the answer.
I plan to manipulate my view height in a minute to see how high I have to be to match the image.
Radium, he's a liar.
Nathan, if you just go back a couple, that's interesting. That land jutting out. If you just go back a couple of images, Nathan.
Yeah, I was going to highlight this as well, because just from a purely quality perspective, when I had it nice and big, although it's a bit blurry in what I presented, what you can see comparatively now how this could be presented, and you've got a tiny little bit of this, which you're saying, oh, well, these are the ends of the rocks at 7 meters or something, I vaguely remember. Well, at that point, you're like, okay, you can see it when you've got the full view of what the telescope's captured in the frame of the vertical view of the iPhone, and what you end up with. And I hope by comparison, when it was nice and big, people really could see what you were talking about. I'm quite pleased now in comparing it to this.
Yeah, we've muddled our way through, haven't we? And we got to the end. So I appreciate all your efforts and everything that you've done, Nathan. As we've gone along, just to try and increase that resolution and everything. But like I've always said, it's extremely important, isn't it? Because it's being captured at such a high quality. Then the way, if we can just get it out the best way possible, then you can really just start seeing really clearly what you're looking at. Even just particularly when it comes to those longer distances, because obviously Atmo becomes an issue. So that's just the nature of the beast, really. Just
what were you going to say about these rocks, though? Because I sort of saw you thunder a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, just the fact that the first set of Landjut rocks, it doesn't really matter. It's just the first set of Landjut rocks. There, I mean, that's 15 meters from that spot. 15 meters would be hidden, and then they're like 7, to the end of them, and then the Landjut sections for me, all of it really. But the Landjut sections are really interesting for me, because then they're really giving you that layering, so If anybody that's interested, I mean, I highly recommend just going and checking it all out on Google Earth and stuff. And like I say, maybe somebody can even just help me understand. I'm very, very interested to know what that little thing is that I zoomed in on. In between, I think it was it in between Steepholm and Flatholm, or was it in between Flatholm and Monkstone? I can't remember, but I do zoom in on it. Is that one of the things that I've been thinking about doing is adding a drone to the whole situation, so a 4K drone, so I can actually send a drone up, and then we can actually look at, look clearly at stuff, and then get references to everything that's actually in the channel or in anywhere I am, because then you can actually reference and then get a distance to these things that are actually, because there's loads of stuff actually in the channel, So maybe that's another addition to the arsenal. But obviously, I don't know how I'm going to be able to control the telescope and the drone at the same time. So, those guys who play those one-man bands and the a kick drum and a harmonica, and so a cymbal on top of head. I don't just need help really with further observations if I'm going to do anything like that, obviously. But then again, suppose you could just send a 4K drone up before the observation, obviously. So, yeah.
Cool.
I think it'd be worthwhile, don't you?
First of all, thank you very much for presenting that. That's I know there's other stuff to come, but that's the conclusory part of this particular observation, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Before you put the pictures down, can we just go back to the picture of the lighthouse? I just want to do a little bit of numbers.
Anthony, can you mute?
Tony, you're on mute, not on mute.
Classic.
No.
Mute.
He's done it. Right, not that one. The Monkstone Lighthouse. So right towards the end. The one that's going to get Rufy excited. Just while you're finding it, I've just been reading.
I'm on it. Just carry on.
I'll just read it because Tinfoil's provided some great detail that really I just want to go through because it demonstrates it. So the first tower was built was an unlit cast iron beacon built in 1839. A granite tower 45 feet high was built in 1859 to replace the beacon. This tower was strengthened with a cast iron tower in the gallery in 25. In 93, a polycarbonate lamp replaced the iron tower and the lantern, increasing the height to 75 feet. So we now know the total height is 75 feet, but we also know that the original granite tower, which is the bottom bit, is 45 feet. So we've got 45 and 75 feet. So we know that top, the bottom bit is 10 foot more than the bottom bit. So it should look a little bit bigger if we were to see the whole thing. And then if...
Hang on a minute. Hang on. You see, just at the base of the structure, that wavy water line.
Yeah.
Earth curve. Earth curve. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely obscuring it, isn't it?
It is absolutely obscuring the bottom of it. There's no doubt in my mind. Earth curve.
I can't argue with that.
It's not Earth curve, Nathan. It's not Earth curve.
If I didn't admit that, I'd be disingenuous, wouldn't I, Rufy? Now,
hold on a second. What's this behind? Is this a second horizon? Scratch that. Just ignore I said anything.
Nathan, I don't know what you're looking at, Nathan. What are you looking at here?
Just looking at the picture you've provided, the historic information about the Monkstone Lighthouse.
But why are you looking at it all funny?
Why am I looking at it all funny? Because, I don't know, it sounds more profitable to be a baller.
Indeed, yeah. Unbelievable, isn't it? Absolutely unbelievable.
Ignore him. Let me finish at this point that will destroy little Rufy Jr. there. So we've got a total height of 75 feet, which is equivalent to 23 meters. So just top of my head, I don't know what's that say, 10 meters and 13 meters. Yeah. So top bit being 10 meters, bottom bit being 13 meters, roughly approximating.
Hold on, Tinfoil out, man. You've got to let him get to the end of his perfect globe proof.
Yeah. So now we've done that, we can go to a Earth curve calculator and see that. And I'm going to invoke refraction. And the parameters I've put in, it's 19.97 meters. So 20 meters of that 23-meter tower should be hidden. I would suggest that the ratios I described, we're probably seeing a little bit more because, as we've seen, the tide is out. So this goes down to the rock bed as described. So we're seeing a little bit more than the proportions as described when the tide's high, on full tide. What we're seeing here is even more up. There's more of the bottom. Now, there might be a little bit of miraging behind that obstruction that's there.
Hang on, are you saying we can see the rocks?
I'm not saying we can see the rocks. I'm saying we can see more of the tower because the tide's out. Whether we can see all the way down to the rock bed, I couldn't make that claim. But the claim I would make is we can see the proportions of the tower. We can see the top of the tower. Now, if we take refraction into account, we should still only be able to see the top 3 meters of this tower, invoking refraction. Yet we can see at least the top 10, can't we? Plus the next 13. So we can at least see the full 23 meters of the tower. I would suggest we could see all the way to the bottom. I don't know how, even with... See, this looks like a wave in the foreground, doesn't it? You can see by the detail on it, it looks like say, an obstruction in the very near foreground. I would suggest it's a lot further away than any invoked horizon Earth curve, which would be at 2.1 kilometers. So nowhere near, way in front of the observer.
Hang on, are you taking the below sea level that I can establish based on a plane of reference? Are you taking... Who's off mute? One of you.
Only me.
Have you taken that into account, plus the 3-story building that I assert you will be on?
Well, that's what I want to get to now.
Well, I've just gotten to it. You're on a 3-story building, that much is obvious, and you're not accounting for the fact that this is, strictly speaking, below sea level. I mean, I think all that combined adds at least 4 meters onto the observation height if you're going to zero it at a reference to elevation height of 0 sea level, for the globe Earth maths. So given that we're going to take an elevation that's not true because it's come from a flurf, we can only infer that there's 4 meters to be added. Have you done the maths then?
Yeah, you need to add 24 meters.
No, just 4.
No, you need 24, mate. So you now need to somehow get me up to 24 meters. That way, there's 0 obstruction. At 24, there is...
No, the 24 is the obstruction at 2.2. What's the recalculated value with you at 6.2 meters elevation? I would propose that this will make things perfect. Have you done the maths at that?
Yeah.
You have?
I've done the maths to make it perfect. It requires you to be at 24 meters.
Okay.
At 6.2 meters, you've still got 6.4 meters obstruction with refraction. So if you can get to 24 meters, then you've only got 10 centimeters to deal with. And I can give you that. So I'll give you 24 is what you've got to get to.
Did I say 2, 3, 4-story building? 5, 6-story building, I'm pretty sure he's on, is he not?
Yeah, that's what you said, 6, yeah.
6-story.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's going to be exactly what we need, is it not, for the globe Earth maths to work? I mean, that's only... Well, furthermore, this isn't even a case of having to increase his elevation beyond 4 meters because there's a lot more refraction on this day. I mean, look at the waviness of the top of this lighthouse. So how much refraction have you accounted for to get it into view again?
Yeah, you can go back down to 1 meter then, because if we have 846 over 6R, I'm sure that'll be sufficient.
846 over 6R is enough refraction to bring this back up as a slightly looming non-standard refraction holographic projection of a lighthouse from behind the physical geometric sphere edge horizon that we absolutely experience as a hill block in our view of this lighthouse, which we're not seeing. This is in fact a mirage.
Yeah. And to be fair, 846.06. I was not even close to infinite refraction as demonstrated in the Black Swan photo. So easy.
You can get there on the slider on Walter Bislin's calculator. I mean, it's just as easy as sliding a little scale, and I'm pretty sure this comes back into view from behind the physical geometric hill.
You just have to wallop it up to full. And you have to do that on everything. With Walter Bislin's, you have to pretty much just keep that slider on full. Yeah, because otherwise you've got problems.
So you're telling me this is dealt with just by merely sliding a slider in Walter Bislin? I mean, this is perfect globe proof then.
Adam and Nathan, that was perfect, because that must be what the hell they sound like when they're trying to do all the mental gymnastics. That's literally, like, I'm sitting here laughing at you guys, listening to you guys discuss this. It's hilarious. This is what they sound like. Instead of just saying, hey, we just see it because it's flat. It's there.
You don't even have to say we see it because it's flat. What is this? Lighthouse? Why?
Yeah.
Sorry, why are you asking me why? It's a freaking lighthouse. You want to know which lighthouse it is? It's this lighthouse. Do you see how it's the exact same shape and discernible appearance, but just from a very long distance away? See how there's these little things poking out the side of it, because this is obviously taken from the reverse angle. See how it's poking out the side here? It's that lighthouse. What do you mean, why? Because I got eyeballs. Because we had a telescope wired up that day with an iPhone. That's why. Because it's there. What do you mean it's not there? It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction holographic projection of a lighthouse from behind the physical geometric reified sphere edge horizon we used to call Earth curve prior to the Black Swan. Therefore, it's not really there. It's a mirage. No, I just see a lighthouse. I don't need to explain anything. This outrageous claim that it shouldn't be there because it's blocked by a hill in the way called Earth curve, but is there because it's a mirage, is utterly absurd, and I, as a flat earther, do not have to exercise such nonsense. It's just there because I got eyeballs. Earth's flat.
With viewing conditions allowing, so the Atmo allows you, I can zoom in on the land in the distance, 35 miles away, and be able to resolve the banking. So you could keep that Monkstone Lighthouse in view as a reference, and then you could go right into the banking 35 miles away. It's all to do with the Atmo.
What, you mean how clear the day is? I know we have to. I shouldn't chuckle.
It's raining. It's not good when it's raining.
It's not good when the day's not very clear. On a very clear day, you see a very long way. I mean, my bad. It's the worst possible conditions for refraction and high holographic projections of lighthouses on a very clear day, says the globe. Infinite over our refraction possible if it's really clear day. No, it's just a really clear day. Clear meaning there's not a lot of shit in the air, dirty air, as Anthony calls it, blocking your view. Well, when that stuff's not in the way, you just see a very long way, depending on how good your optics are.
Do they really do that? I was listening to the whole thing with you and Adam. Is that what they really do?
Yes.
That's insane.
In a condensed version, and albeit without the sarcasm from me, yes, they go through the motions of how can I make this work to reify my zealotry. Yes, that is precisely what they do. We can only do it because we watch them do it in front of us when challenged. That's why Adam and I can do it so concisely. For those of you who might be new to the show, you might not realise that I was just going through the motions of, well, this is something that I can put through the calculation. Therefore, my flat Earth measurement of a flat plane to give me angles and reifications of a surface level that's flat with a geometric horizon that nobody can see anymore below that surface level in the maths is blocking the view of this lighthouse, but isn't really blocking it. That's why we can see it, because it's a hologram. That's how the mental gymnastics is not something that we would ever have to indulge ourselves in beyond laughing at our opponents for doing it.
Isn't that the funny irony of it? So the clearer the day, the more we see. The more we see, the more mental gymnastics they have to do to come up with why we see what we see, instead of just realizing it's just a clear day and we see it because it's there.
Yeah.
George Netchuk, hey everyone. George Netchuk a couple of years ago showed an image.
Irish.
Hey, chocolate. George Netchuk a couple of years ago showed an image, right? And he said this was a clear day, and he showed the muggiest, dirtiest image possible. With this dark grey clouds and everything, and like really dense air, and you could see nothing except for this little kind of horizon thing that fit his globe. He said, "This is what a real clear day looks like." And he was being dead serious, George did, dead serious. I think it was on Ranties or something, and it was just like, wow.
Well, they've got to delude themselves. They're fanatical. What Brian's saying is that's what fanaticism leads you to do. Look at look at something that's black and tell you that it's white. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell.
And what he was looking at, all he had to do was add 7/6 at the time to get it. But I think even at the time it was pre-2020, so I think he could have actually been claiming a geometric horizon. But the point was that he was showing this muggy, dirty, grey image without any sunlight, without any grey clouds, and you could see it was really moist and damp that day as well. And it was like a November day, you know what I mean, in the worst place it could be in, kind of stuff. And he said, "There's a clear image." It's like
Miles Davis
the sun is out.
Miles Davis did the
you
same
can see
thing.
somewhere. It's just 1 second. Let me finish this. Every time the sun is out and you can actually see something, that's a highly refracted day. Go on, Nathan. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Miles the Liar Davis did exactly the same thing. So he went out to try and replicate something and give us Earth curve, and he predicated it being a single image with all of this equipment that he showed, all nicely set up on tripods. And then when we ended up with was a picture that he'd taken on some Handycam with a really small aperture. Don't need to say any more. But obviously what he produced from all of the nice P900 footage or whatever he got out of their good cameras never got seen, because presumably it didn't prove what he wanted on that muggy day that he's gone out to get Earth curve on the muggiest day possible. But he managed to replicate it in a tiny little Handycam. So that's all we got presented. But when he's presenting it, he's telling, "Oh, I definitely caught Earth curve." And it's like, you've been out there trying to cherry pick the moment where you can get it on one of these good cameras, and you failed. But you did manage it on a little snapshot that you took. So that's what you're going to present. But you're going to delude yourself that you've been there all day filming Earth curve. Just like, what? You're out there affirming your bias. It's pathetic.
But
P90. Nah, that's not good enough. P90. Nah, we need like we need like a Galileo style single piece lens telescope from like 1700s. That's what we need, baby.
A boy two zoom. Yeah. But you know what they've always done? And this is something I charged them with way back. I don't know, back at the beginning maybe. They go out 20 times, right? And because you know these people, they're going out there 20 times. What I remember is Flat Earth are showing all their observations. Anthony would show everything he gets, and they'd be all different things. And the same to Ranty and other people, right? But the ones that would fit, like that they could mathematically wrangle in some kind of outcurve into. This is pre-2020. Those ones would be 1 out of every 15 or 20 observations, or 1 out of every 12. And the rest of them, right, there might be a few that they could kind of wash away some stuff with maybe, but it would be a stretch. And there'd be some there then, they just like the 1 foot observations to the man, like that, and they could just never deal with, right? But what they do is they go out 20 times and they get the observation that fits what they need it to fit, right? And that's something that they can add enough over 6 or 2. And that's the one they present you with. And you know these people are out there every day trying to get that observation. They'll spend 2 months trying to get that observation. So they're just showing reality and what it is day to day. They'll go out there and spend 2 months and come back with an observation. They never came back with an observation. Never came back with an observation that didn't somehow mathematically wrangle in a globe. Never. In 9 years almost next year now, 9 years, I've not seen one observation from them that even remotely didn't wasn't mathematically, like, somehow you could wrangle a globe in. Go on, Chocolate.
I'm just sitting here wondering how do they square that circle in their own heads when literally long distance photography is a thing? Like we marvel at how far we can see things, and these clowns, this is what they do with that. They don't show us how far we can see things. They just say, "Oh no, look at this dark nonsense. Oh, it's a perfectly clear day." It's insane.
Tell you how you can't see things.
Well, if you think about it, how many of these people are into astronomy? There's a lot of these guys who are into astronomy and things like that years before we ever turned up. So you've got to ask yourself, did any of these guys go and get any of their astronomical equipment, right, and go to high elevation and look and see, they saw Switzerland from I don't know, Portugal or something. Do you know what I mean? Did any of them ever do that and just say nothing about it? Have no doubt. They got, because I guarantee you they were out there more than any of the flat earthers. And I guarantee you they got serious flat earth proof and they never showed it. When I say flat earth proof, it's not. At the time, they got images and video that there's no way they could ever, show as publicly, because there'd be no way to be able to explain it. So when
I
they
got a
said,
question, Brian. When the telescope first came out, how did they like fit that in that they were living on a sphere?
Yeah, I'll get back to that, Neil. I just want to finish the point I was making. I'm after going off track now. But the thing about it is that they tried to charge Nathan and Anthony with saying Nathan was hiding perfect globe proof, because Nathan was pointing out that what Anthony has was a white dot, pixel, in a black screen, kind of thing. And it's just like they're going to just try and somehow turn that into globe proof because they're boneheads, because you can't see the below because it's all black. It was nighttime. And they tried to say, Nathan's hiding globe proof. But the truth is, what's the truth? The truth is that they were hiding for years. I guarantee you they had better equipment than just a P900. And they were hiding for years a lot of stuff they never showed.
Charge your enemy with exactly what it is you're doing. So meanwhile,
they were hiding flat Earth.
Meanwhile, but think about what Brian is saying.
Yes, Neil.
How many observations these guys went out and did, right? How many did they not show or not present to us? Why? Because they can't explain it. So they hide it.
Argument from science fallacy, but there we go.
But the thing about, but Nathan, the problem is that, and Anthony would remember this, every single time they turned up with an observation, it was always an observation that they could mathematically wrangle into a globe. Somehow, right? They never turned up with anything that didn't give them some kind of support. They were a little network of liars. And we would turn up with everything and anything. And that was the difference. So who was being honest? Who was being honest for all them years? It wasn't them.
Yeah, but they're only lying to themselves. I'm saying, when they invented the telescope, how was that not an eye opener?
The telescope was called the Looking Glass. I think it was called. Is it Dutch? Because Holland is a very flat country. There's very little hills. So the Looking Glass, I think was the name of it, where you could look at a distance to see somebody or see something in Holland. That's where the telescope came from. So when they started being able to see a distance, they didn't think about it because there was no hills or anything in the way. So when they first started coming out with telescopes, it was just purely to look horizontally at a distance to someone. That was the whole point, or to something. That was the whole point, because in Holland you can do that because there's very little hills. But then Galileo was the first person to, I think it was 90, what year was it? 1608 was the first telescope, 1608, 1609. The first two patents for the telescope went in. They were from two Dutch guys. And then Galileo in 1610, I think it was, he turned up with a by 20 telescope. But he was looking at the celestials. He wasn't, it's at that point he started looking into the sky and he wasn't looking horizontally. So they don't mention that about anyone looking horizontally, just looking up into the sky. And after that, telescopes were always just for looking up into the sky. So they didn't have a problem because they weren't looking horizontally. And tinfoil will
but do
tell you
you
that
think he
because
wasn't looking horizontally like you just charged the other guys with? He probably was.
But it doesn't matter whether he was or wasn't. The point is that if he was, like the point is that, let's say he wasn't, he was looking up into the sky, which I doubt he was just looking up into the sky. But the point is that telescopes became a thing you look up into the sky with. They weren't mostly put together to look horizontally across land. You know what I mean? That's why tinfoil will give you some information about that. That's why the first one he had, or some of the original equipment he had, wasn't suitable. He had to get this equipment that he has now and mess around with stuff to get it to be suitable. Do you know what I mean? Because they're all designed to look up into the sky. They're not designed to look horizontally. Yet they're the biggest zoom things we can buy. Isn't that funny? You know, why? Well, I understand they have a necessity to be looking up into the sky, and that's what they're designed for. But why can't you also look horizontally? I found, I can't say it's conspiracy, but it's just like, why not?
Because you'll see the magic trick.
Yep.
Something I find interesting as well is that if you don't have to do that, don't have to do it now, but if you check out that video and you start looking at that land in the background, which is like 25, 30, 35 miles as it's panning, it was a good visibility there, but obviously with distance, that atmo gets in the way. But there's certain sections of it that you will see, and you can see that all of a sudden, like, just land becomes visible. So even without infrared, if you just fall on an excellent visibility day, slap 1,000 times magnification into that telescope, you're just going to be looking at you're going to be resolving the land 30, 35 miles away. That's what's going to happen. You just need that really good day. And that is like when you get to those sort of distances. I mean, this is all just stupid anyway now, but
no, you don't need a really good day. You need the worst day possible to give you the best refraction. So then you have the greatest day.
Yeah, that. So yeah, I just find that really interesting that, like, you just, you know what I mean, that the scope is that powerful, and it's all there. The equipment's all there to just capture this stuff now. So yeah, really, really interesting. And another thing that was extremely interesting is that conversation we were having as well, Brian. I'll let you describe what we were talking about last week, Brian.
No, I don't want to talk about that now. We can talk about that when there's no chance of it going out public.
Okay, right. Yeah. All right, agreed. No problem.
Are we doing the cults next week?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Cults. When are we going to do the cults?
Well, I was hoping 2 parts next week and the week after, but it may be the case that I have to take a week's hiatus because I've got some really, really important personal stuff that's prioritizing my attention. So I don't know. I can't 100% guarantee. All I can say is that I'll let Nathan know. I'll let you know. But it may just have to be the case I'll take a little break because there's stuff really, really just pressing that needs all my undevoted attention. So, but it will definitely be coming very, very soon. So, yeah, if that's okay with you guys.
No, it's not. But oh well.
I'll see what I can do. As best I can do. As soon as I can, I will do it.
Yeah, I don't want you to be dissuaded by the fact we're all keen for the cult stuff. It's just because we're all a bunch of conspiratards, and that's much more appealing to us. You know, it's easier to sell to for me. From that perspective, we're all very, very keen.
Yeah, understood. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you all, all that I know. It's like insider knowledge, isn't it? Insider trading. It's just all I can do is just give you my perspective on things and hope that it helps. So yeah, I will as soon as as soon as I can. I've just got some really pressing personal stuff. That's all. So, but I'm looking forward to moving forward. I hope everybody else is. Those Isle of Man things are going to be interesting there for now, don't you think?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. Let me ask you a fast question. How long were you in a Jehovah's Witness? I don't know if you answered it already, but
I was born into being a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, so okay.
I started asking. Stuff didn't make sense to me at 10 years old. What I was hearing, you know. I was always asking questions, always that sort of inquisitive type. And then by 16, 17 years old, I had all these questions. My parents couldn't disagree. They were like, "Yeah, we get your point." So they started looking into it all, and then ultimately we all came out. They disfellowship you. It's called disfellowshipping, which is basically it's like what probably
excommunication, like in
excommunication.
Scientology.
Yeah, it's excommunication. What people really understand it better as being, but it's called disfellowshipping there. And then what happens there is that it's like because you've been born into it and you've been indoctrinated with it, and all your social circle are Jehovah's Witnesses. You see, because every other type of relationship and social interaction is frowned upon. You know. So that's the threat, isn't it? You know, the threat with the big stick. You know, toe the line, or everything you know, all the people you know will turn their back on you. You know, so yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of a rough background. But I know you guys are really interested for me to, but obviously it's all.
Why didn't they go into detail about that when they came to my house on Saturday mornings? Oh, by the way, if you do join us, you're gonna have to toe the line. Otherwise, you're gonna get excommunicado.
Yeah, the first thing they'll do, Chocolate. The first thing they'll do is they'll love bomb you. Yeah, it's called love bombing. So they'll invite you along, and then honestly, you'll have everybody hanging off you. You know. Hey, nice to see you, Chocolate. You know what I mean? All this stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, so cool, brother, for you to be, and then don't toe the line, and then literally you'll walk in and they'll all turn their backs on you. You know? So yeah.
Yeah, that seems worth it.
Yeah. So yeah, but what strikes me the most about it all is the correlation out to the big cult, because it is a big cult, and that's a little cult. It's just a subdivision.
Yeah,
literally correlation after correlation after correlation. You know what I mean? Example after example after example. Yeah. So the whole idea is to sort of say, right, okay, so what is a cult? What defines a cult? What's the checklist for it? You know, obviously a little bit of a background of me and my family, and then obviously, you know, once you go through this checklist, it's like, okay, so what else meets this criteria? What else meets this checklist that we know? You know, so you can actually really just properly extrapolate everything out of it. And yeah, there's like and then there's obviously some background history on the because I think you know, possibly it's possible that previously when I spoke about it I misspoke. So I was saying that Joseph Smith, I honestly, I don't really want to go into it all now, but there's like, they were all Freemasons, and there's a lot of mentoring. And what are we saying, that Freemasons don't get together and socialize and interact with each other? All I'd say is if you want to go off like Wikipedia dates and stuff like that, you're barking up the wrong tree. So, but possibly when I stated that Scientology and not Ron L. Hubbard, you know, maybe that was a little bit too further on. But like I say, it'll all be covered. And that's probably the most important part, really. Anyway, I mean, it's important that a lot around that time, 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, there were a lot springing up. So there were all the Adventists and the Christian Scientists and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons and all this stuff. They were all springing up with all this Freemason connection and everything. But yeah, so it's a little bit sort of hard when you're looking back into history. I think anybody would be foolish to suggest that, you know, you look back in history, particularly the sort of official narrative and everything, and try and make sense of everything or know that you're being told the truth. History is written by the victors, isn't it? You know, so it's all interesting, but that's probably the least kind of relevant part of it all. But I'm just trying to say, like, how there'll be various things covered really in the presentation. And then, even Refracted was just talking about Stockholm syndrome, and that was all very interesting. So yeah, just is all definitely interesting. It certainly is to me. But I just think it's going to be so helpful for people to see the reality on the ground, the boots on the ground, so to speak, of that entire situation, and then really be able to see the connection as you go out into the bigger, wider world and the bigger, wider cult that exists. So
yeah, like heliocentrism. That seems like it's the biggest cult now. Heliocentrism.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's NASA, isn't it? All Freemason stuff. All it's all that connection. It's all those roots. Yeah, so it's all, to me, like I say, extremely interesting, and I know that you guys are saying to me as well that it's something that you're interested in hearing and everything. But if you can just bear with me, because I've
I'm only kidding with you. Whenever you're ready is fine. But
yeah, sure.
think of how heavy this cult is, heliocentrism, that you can have two pastors, one reading directly from the Bible, the other one denying it, and accusing the other guy who read from the Bible as being a Bible denier. That's how strong heliocentrism is.
You're not much of a cult if you're not double speaking,
It's the same thing, isn't it? Because it's everyone was indoctrinated. Everybody is being indoctrinated, or certainly the vast majority, and that's what it's all about. You see, get them when they're young, isn't it? There was a saying, there was a phrase, and I'll literally forget it now off the top of my head, but it was along the lines of somebody said that, give me the child at 7 and I'll give you the man, But again, hopefully I can include as much. It's quite a hefty presentation, if you can imagine, as well. So
you won't need all that. All you'll need to do is get the observation that we spoke about. We're not going to talk about now. And then you'll see exactly what a cult is. We've seen it. We've seen this. Back in January the 1st, 2020.
Now we don't know what you know.
You'll know it later.
Just hold on. What a cliffhanger.
Patience is a virtue.
Yeah, Ted Man does that too.
Neil's the type that it seems like you can't watch a movie without him asking you what's going to happen at the end in the first 10 minutes. He was like, "Tell me now, how does it end?"
we literally are, aren't we? It's like the truth is in the movies, and the news is full of the fantasy stuff, isn't it? And we're all just playing out this movie, aren't we? We're all in it. It's unbelievable to me.
All the world's a stage.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. It's I've just really sort of enjoyed coming along and meeting all you guys, and just what I can hopefully bring to the table with you all collectively and stuff. I just think ultimately we're just going to smash this, because cults can be broken. Indoctrination in people can be broken down. You know what I mean? This is not a situation for despair. Because it's like it's just about understanding, isn't it? It's just what you know, and what you don't, and stuff like that. So anything I can bring and just to the arsenal to help everybody and just be part of this collective I think I truly believe this is revolutionary. What all you guys have been doing over the past 10 years, I have nothing but admiration and respect for you all. So, and knowing how you tread when you do state the truth, you do stand by facts, and you're not unwavered, and you're prepared to stand your ground, and then how you treat, and how people treat you and what they say about you and all that lot.
We're called
we're scammers.
That's the thing. We're called scammers, and we're called the cult. They're calling this is what they wanted to make us out to be.
You're called.
And some of us are helping them.
You're called.
But not us. Some of the people who are believers of flat Earth, not knowers.
You, we, me, we're all called toxic, liars, scammers, all the while they're what? The ballers, the anti-flat earthers, the Germanism, all these people, all these witches and all this lot. What do they do? Assertion, assumption, speculation, selling it as what? Science,
Yeah, because they have a belief. That's what Brian's saying. I know you know. Brian, they have a belief in flat Earth, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
But if you only have a belief, then your beliefs can change. That's the problem with that kind of thing. When you know, you can't change for knowing.
What I like about, you're right, Brian.
Yeah, well, I asked that guy at that conference if he would go back to the ball. He said, I don't think so. Oh, that's pretty telling right there. Yeah. You have a belief, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he believes there's a ball to possibly go back to believe in. So, I mean, any of these people can go from believing one thing to believing another thing, and then go back to the thing they used to believe. Because
let me ask the question, Brian, do you think you could ever go back to being a globe earther, Brian?
There's nothing to go back to. It's impossible to go back to something that doesn't exist in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty simple. We just have to go find this Earth curvature that has been told that has been around for years and years and years. That all of a sudden now we're told, we've never seen the Earth curve. Can't see the Earth curve.
Thousands of years of evidence.
Say again?
Thousands of years of evidence that you're denying.
Yeah.
Yet they can't show you that today.
2023,
in the past 9 years. Go on, sorry.
Didn't they say you wouldn't expect to see Earth curve?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that. Nobody's ever said that.
Which is
okay?
Right.
Can I ask Nathan a question? Nathan, I saw that Paul posted one of my videos about a triangle involving the LIGO, one of the LIGO stations. Well, were you showing that for some reason?
We were discussing LIGO earlier. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I just want to actually something I want to hit on, and Adam is aware of this concerning that. Right, for anyone who wants to know, and this is the thing. Listen to this. I didn't find out at first when I was doing the calculations or the measurements with Google Earth using LIGO. But we all know LIGO is two straight lines, two horizontal. It has to be, right? It's the point of it. So I used the LIGO station, right? And I made a straight line as my opposite of a right angle triangle on one, and another straight line as my adjacent on the other one, right? And so the distance measured between them is the hypotenuse length, right? When I put that into a right angle triangle calculator, right on screen to show it, right, and I showed Google Earth's measurement of the hypotenuse, their measurement was, the Google Earth measurement was slightly shorter, just only a small bit, right? But it was slightly shorter. And I went, well, that could be down to my accuracy or whatever, right? If I just changed the accuracy a little bit, it would be more correct.
My pixel line, Brian, wasn't it? It was just it was just the accuracy of where we got the pixels, but it was negative.
Yeah, but what happened though, Adam, is that as I started making these right angle triangles, I started making them bigger. And the biggest one I made, I think, was over several states in America, or a good half of the United States. And the hypotenuse, right, in Google Earth, just like every other one I did, the hypotenuse in Google Earth was shorter than the hypotenuse in the right angle triangle calculator. Yet the opposite and adjacent were the same length. What they're actually doing, right, this is what I figured out, is that when you take a real right angle triangle, and if you place that down over a curved surface, what happens to the internals? Because those lines then should convex, right? They should go to the convex. So what happens? The internal area within that triangle, well, it won't be a triangle anymore once it's laid onto a sphere, but within those three lines, that internal area increases. So how did they mathematically solve this? They keep the opposite and the adjacent as straight horizontals, and they shorten the hypotenuse. It's mathematically impossible. It just doesn't work. You can't do that. But this is what they actually do, and I've shown this in a video more recently. When they try and come up with spherical triangles, which is an oxymoron, right? What they're actually doing is they're dealing with three actual right-angle triangles from a center point, meeting 3 points on the surface of the sphere, and those 3 points are three circles that are intersecting. That's what they actually are. But how Google Earth shows this to you is when you make a right-angle triangle on Google Earth, it keeps the opposite and the adjacent straight and horizontal mathematically. Now, it might show you them curving, but mathematically it keeps them straight and horizontal. This was a bit strange for me, of course, but Google Earth shortens the distance and the hypotenuse. Because why did they need to shorten it? To make up to take away the extra surface area that will be within those three lines. When you curve those three lines over a sphere, you increase the surface area that would be shown within that triangle. Think about that. Have a think about how screwed up that is. Google Earth is mathematically lying to you. They're showing you something that's impossible. You can't, Adam. Can you have an adjacent and opposite, right, being the same length and have a shorter hypotenuse? Can't.
No.
It's bizarre what the things they must do and Google Earth must do mathematically. The ballers were up in arms about it, but they obviously got nothing back of them other than all I got was mostly insults and rubbish. And then tried to answer things that weren't even asked. That's what I got off them. Because it's a mathematical impossibility. You can't do that. You can't have two straight lines and a hypotenuse between, making a right angle and a hypotenuse line shorter than what it has to be in reality. You can't have that. And even when I use LIGO, which is definitely two straight lines, Google Earth still used those exact measurements but shorten the hypotenuse. Because that's the only way it can mathematically account for the area within the three lines. When you bend those lines, the area would be increased.
What a surprise, right?
Yeah, it's not surprising when we're dealing with lies right to the Google Earth level. You know what I mean? It's not surprising. Harper, are you there?
Yes, Brian.
I listened to the pre-show of the day before yesterday, I think it was. And you were recalling the questions you were asking me the night before. And you said, concerning density, right, and gases. And you said that I define density as volume or some nonsense like that. That is not what I said. You asked me 4 times specifically, right, to define density, and I defined it 4 times. And each time you obviously didn't listen because the next day you said things that were untrue concerning me. So what's that about?
I did not really say that you defined density like that. It was just a small part of the conversation which went on for even less than a minute, I think, with Neil. But I did not say that you defined density like that. It was regarding a part of the conversation where you were giving an example of 2 1 centimeter cube containers.
Yeah. But that's not what you said. In the pre-show, that's not what you said. What you said was I had said something that I didn't say. What I said to you, when you asked me to define density, I'm going to clear it up now. When you asked me to define density, I said that it is the amount of innate matter found within the confines of a volume. Right? That's density. Right? That's a definition for density. I don't adhere to the everyday definition of density, which is weight over volume. And the reason I don't is because the weight they're talking about is a force of gravity giving weight to a mass. I don't adhere to that because I have personally debunked that as being real. I have a debunk that I can show real world demonstrations that this prove this claim. So I do not adhere to that. Right? Density of matter is matter. Right? All matter has some form of density. And if you're talking about gases, you're going to be dealing with the only way to describe density of gases and different densities is to describe them as in a cubic centimeter or cubic meter, whichever, and how much matter is found within that cubic meter. That, as far as density goes. Now, I understand the whole weight over volume thing can be used mathematically, but that's because it's all being based around that. There is no
So
weight
whenever
over volume giving you density.
you defined it a number of times in those same terms, the amount of matter per unit volume. And my next question always was, how do you measure the amount of matter?
Well, you can only calculate it when it comes to density. You're calculating it. It comes back to the protons, electrons, and neutrons. The more neutrons, the more innate matter. That's how it's calculated. Neutrons make up the majority of what we call density of matter. That's how it's described. Now, gas, if you want to, how do they describe why a helium balloon goes up? They say the overall density of the helium and the balloon material is less dense than the air, right? But none of those, not the balloon material, yeah, but the helium inside it and the air outside it, they don't have weight. They can't have weight. As if they had weight, then they wouldn't be able to be a gas. They couldn't behave as a gas. So how do you describe why the balloon goes up without referring to density differentials? The same for a ship. When they're building a ship, part of their calculations for the ship is the overall density of the ship, which will be including the amount of air that will be within the confines of the ship on a regular basis, because that's part of how they calculate for the buoyancy. So you must, like, how are you supposed to, right, say, gases have no density, when they literally have to be calculated, when the actual density of gases needs to be calculated in, to things like that. Building ships, airplanes, all these things, you have to calculate in gas density within it to calculate for the workings of those vehicles. How do you describe helium balloon going up? When the material will go down without the helium. If you just put air in it, it'll go down. But with the helium, it goes up. What has changed is the overall density. That's the only way we can. I don't know of any other way to describe it. So when you were asking me, when I say that gases don't have weight, but they do have density, yeah, you calculate the amount of innate matter found within the confines of a volume. But that balloon being an example, the amount of helium within the confines of that, of that volume.
And the amount of, you said you find out the amount of innate matter, but then when I say how you find out, you say you have to calculate it.
Well, how else do you do it? You can't count it.
That's the
If you
question.
describe it as matter, then it is a calculation.
Have you tried to count them all?
You're talking to me or Arthur?
Did you try and count them?
No. My point being that when ice becomes water and water becomes water vapor, that's still, it's like, with the exception of the changing of bonds, it's still the same thing. It doesn't become something different. It becomes a phase of the same thing. But it's not, like, it's still H2O. It's H2O when it's ice, it's H2O when it's water, it's H2O when it's water vapor. The bonds are different, you know, the phase of matter is different, but it doesn't turn into a different thing. It's still H2O. Do you understand what I mean?
It has so basically it has the same innate matter, right?
Well, it's just its behavior is different. Different phases of matter behave differently. That's the only way you can describe it that I'm aware of.
Alrighty then.
When you take it to the molecular level, Brian, then would you agree with this statement that a molecule of carbon dioxide has more molecular weight than a helium atom, maybe?
No, because they can't have weight. If we're talking about carbon dioxide and we're talking about helium, they don't have weight. Their behavior negates weight.
It was described as relative molecular weight, which is a separate concept to weight.
Yeah, if you even look at, let's see, this is how this goes. Let's say the CO2 and the helium. Helium is He, CO2 is CO2, right? That's one carbon, two oxygen, isn't it? Against what helium is one proton, one electron. So what protons, electrons, and neutrons are in the CO2? You're going to find neutrons in that, which is innate matter, which is basically just a way of describing innate matter. There's no positive or negative. It's neutrally charged, as they say. There's no positive, no negative. The protons and the electrons are the positive and negative. So if you look at the atomic, the scale or whatever, and you go from hydrogen right up to or down to gold, you'll find the more and more and more dense something is, the more neutrons it has. So that's how they describe it. So you will find more neutrons in CO2 than you will in helium, because helium is one proton and one electron. Like that's helium atom. It doesn't have the same type of bonds, whereas you have covalent and ionic bonds in the molecules, because helium is not described as a molecule. CO2 is a molecule. There's three atoms, basically. And those atoms are described as having, some of them are described as having neutrons. So that's how they start adding in mathematically density. So you can't have He, which is just a proton and electron, and CO2, which is three atoms, and some of those atoms only have neutrons in them. That's how they're described. You know, the two of them, one is going to be bigger than the other. You know what I mean? That's why the CO2, they like, Adam could speak on it. Obviously, he knows it better. But when they say weight, none of them can have weight if they're a gas. They won't behave. Like, weight is defined. What is weight? It's an apparent effect of buoyancy. That's all it is. We've been taught our whole lives that weight creates buoyancy. A force of down creates an up. No. The amount of up determines the amount of down. It's very simple. More buoyancy, less weight. Less buoyancy, more weight. You know, I have less buoyancy in air, so I have more weight. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm in water, I have way more buoyancy. So technically, at the bottom of a swimming pool, if I'm floating above a weighing scales, that I weighed myself at the side of the pool in air. But at the bottom of a swimming pool and float above it, I technically have no weight, because it can't be no measurable weight. It can't be measured. At that point, it's only the amount of buoyancy I have. They can't point. There's no weight. You know what I mean? That's the same. We measure something, the weight of something in a vacuum. Go on.
So atoms, molecules, and neutrons, protons do not have weight, according to you?
Not in gaseous form. If you're talking, see, we're talking. Like,
This is just strange.
Instead of saying, sorry,
Go on.
Adam, to cut you off, instead of saying it doesn't have weight, it doesn't fit into that convention we have derived.
Perfect.
So when we talk of atomic weight, it's a different thing, like Adam just said.
Yes, because it's not state specific.
It's nothing to do with that. It's not that. It's to do with the fact that you've gone into a concept of molecules, and you're going to use the only thing you can get, which is weight from reality. And we don't need to worry about gases and their phases, because it's just a separate ascribement of a relative molecular weight. Yeah, that's why it's called relative molecular weight, not weight. We don't say what is the weight of a proton. We say what is the relative molecular weight of a proton. We make the distinction of the conventions.
Atoms
That's
mass
not
is
to say that you can't.
atoms weight.
Sorry. It's not.
Don't we measure atomic weight in actually grams, but it is a very small number in terms of grams. When you take a bunch of atoms, it actually registers on a weighing scale.
That's not to say that you can't take your measurement from reality and do a calculation using your atomic and molecular theory to give you a calculation that says that atom weighs this much. Nothing stopping you doing that. And stopping you making that assumption. Very useful, that assumption within the convention.
But it has connection to reality. That's the point I try to make always in these conversations.
Say that again, Alfred.
But these are atomic weight and everything is not just convention. It has connection to reality and it can be validated with observations.
But you understand the connections.
Yeah, the way we define weight, just like we put things on a weighing scale and weigh them, that is the usual concept of weight. And you are trying to differentiate the idea of the same weight when applied to atoms and molecules. You are saying that it is only relative molecular weight, which is a different convention and has nothing to do with reality. Or
I say if you can take one and weigh it, then that's reality.
See, this is the problem. When you're talking about weight, you're stepping outside. You're stepping outside. You can't. You'll never be able to weigh just one molecule. You'll never be able to do that. Because what will that? It won't have any bonds to any other molecule.
That's fine, but what you are able to do is to weigh carbon dioxide gas and helium gas and see that the carbon dioxide gas is heavier on a scale.
But we already went through that with you. It's not that it's heavier, it's that because the molecules are bigger, right, when they bounce off the base...
About the size, bigger again.
It does. If you get hit... Let me ask you a question then. This is the problem we've had in the past. And this is the boys trying to talk to you about the other night or the other evening. If you get hit in the chest with a tennis ball that's moving at 20 miles an hour, and you get hit in the chest with a basketball that's moving at 20 miles an hour, none of them are moving down. So none of them are moving down, right? It's just momentum. So which one will hit you with more force?
So to be clear, I'll have to ask you, what are they made of?
Hang on. Which one will hit you with more force? Make the tennis ball the size. Get two tennis balls, a normal size one and one the size of a basketball, right? The both will hit you in the chest.
Let's take two balls, one of plastic and another of iron, of the same size, same diameter.
Well, no, because one, you see, you're dealing with solids there, where you're talking about something that won't have any kind of elastic collision. I'm trying to somehow show some kind of an equivalence with solids to an elastic. The best I can do is air-filled balls. That's the best I can do that will bounce. Like a steel ball won't bounce. You know what I mean? A ping pong ball won't really bounce. You know, a tennis ball, a basketball, a football, they'll bounce. We're talking about the base of a container, right? The base of that container, if that's getting hit by 100 helium molecules, and then the container next to it is getting hit by helium atoms, and then the container next to it is the base of it is getting hit by 100 CO2 molecules, then the base next to it there's more surface area of that base next to it getting hit, and it's getting hit by things that are bigger. They're all moving, if we keep them at equal temperatures, they'll be moving at the same, let's say they're all moving at 20 miles an hour. Now, they won't be, but right. So they'll all be moving at 20 miles an hour, but you'll have one base that's getting hit with bigger molecules covering a greater surface area of that base. So what do you think is going to register more on the scales? What's the scales? It's registering the amount of down. So the scales is including whatever amount of downforce is happening with the gases.
I think you're talking about force per unit area. Basically, that's pressure, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you have to take the size of them into account as well, because if something is bigger and it's moving.
Let us. So, if you take equal volumes of two containers, all right? Two containers which are of the same volume, and you introduce, like you said, the same innate matter, the same number of molecules in terms of moles. Let's introduce 1 mole of helium into one of the container and 1 mole of carbon dioxide into the other container. Now, according to you, because the carbon dioxide molecules are bigger, it is going to register more pressure on the walls of the container. Oh, you are so mistaken, Mr. Brian.
That is what's happening to the base of it, Arthur. If you keep both of them at the same temperature, the helium and the carbon dioxide, then you're going to have a greater pressure with the carbon dioxide.
Do you know Avogadro's postulate?
Yeah, I know about Avogadro's law.
Let me Google and read it right now.
Yeah, do read it out. Because I went through this with Adam the other night, I think, as well. Not Avogadro, but we talked about this exact thing. Because you're trying to insert weight into a gas. And I'm trying to show you how that is false. But you're still trying to insert weight into a gas. It's bizarre for me.
I Googled it and the first entry is Wikipedia, but it does my job. Avogadro's law states that equal volumes of all gases at the same temperature and pressure have the same number of molecules. You put it the other way around, if they have the same number of molecules at the same temperature, they are going to have the same pressure.
Yeah, well, that's obviously not correct.
Okay, go on.
Because just because two gases at the same temperature and pressure, that doesn't mean they're going to have the same amount of, that is faulty logic. That doesn't mean they're going to have the same amount of atoms or molecules. Because I can put in half the amount of helium, right? And I can I can put in half the amount of helium, and depending on the gas, no, that's not going to work. But that obviously is correct, because just because there's two different gases at the same temperature and pressure. Hang on, what am I saying? Oh, hang on, is this speaking about the gases themselves, though, Arthur? As in, not just any two gases. Hey, read it out again, because Avogadro's law I always was a bit wishy-washy with that.
Avogadro's law states that equal volumes of all gases at the same temperature and pressure have the same number of molecules.
Well, equal volumes. There'll be two volumes of the same size, right? And there is 1 mole of one gas in one mole of another gas in another. Both held at the same temperature will have the same pressure. That's what you're saying. That's what it's trying to say.
Yes, I think you are right.
Yes. Is that a confirmation?
I did not actually get what you said, so I'll repeat.
Yeah, so how can carbon dioxide be heavier then? Based off of the very thing that you just produced there, your reference.
We'll come to that later, but first you have to confess
No, we
that-
can't come to that later because what you just read out there. See, I have a problem with that, Avogadro's law. Right?
Yes, you have a problem that you can't accept your mistakes.
No, I have a problem with it because it doesn't make any sense.
Avogadro's law does not make sense.
No, it's not making sense.
Because
two gases held at equal temperature. If you have an equal amount, like, how did they come to having an equal amount of molecules in each one? Hang on. How did they come to having an equal amount of? Don't be shouting at me,
Hold on,
Arthur.
both of you
How did
stop.
it come to
Hold
have-
on. Arthur, just pause till he's ended and just back off your mic a little bit because otherwise you're a bit distorted. Go ahead. Either of you.
How did they come to having an equal amount of molecules in each one? How did they come to that? Just off of temperature and pressure in an equal volume.
That's beyond my point.
Well, it's not, because it goes against your point for a start. I don't agree with it.
Go and ask Avogadro.
I can't ask Avogadro, can I?
So
you're claiming something outside of the convention than what you just read out.
Now, because you are wrong, I have to explain myself.
No, you don't. You're claiming that one will have more weight. That would be extra pressure.
There was nothing about weight in the Avogadro's law.
That's right, but you said that one will have more weight.
But you have a problem
you're trying to use Avogadro's law as an argument against
what I'm saying. Avogadro's law is incorrect. Let's first
it doesn't seem to make sense to me.
So then Avogadro's law is wrong.
It doesn't make sense to me. That's the one gas law never made sense to me.
That's not my problem.
Unless I'm misunderstanding it. Well, it is your problem because Avogadro's law is the very thing that's going against what you're saying.
Oh my God.
And don't give me an oh my God. You're claiming one has more weight. Now, this is two different gases. And one will have more weight is pressure, Arthur.
I'll note that down. Weight is pressure.
Is it not a form of pressure?
You just said it is. Weight is
so
pressure.
So it's not pressure on the scales. So it's not a pressure force on the scales. Measured on a scale.
Weight is not
a
pressure,
downward
then.
Pressure force. So it's not pressure.
Weight is pressure.
You seem to need a straw man. You seem to be trying to build a straw man here, Arthur.
Arthur, he's trying to confirm with you.
Now, what's going on here, Chocolate, is Arthur is attempting to build a straw man because I pointed out that Avogadro's law goes against the very thing that he's trying to claim is happening. Yeah, and he's the one who produced Avogadro's law as some kind of evidence.
You just said something. You just said something which goes against Avogadro's law. When I put it to you, you are saying that the law doesn't make sense to you. That's not my problem.
No, it doesn't. The way it's written, maybe it's just my understanding. It doesn't make any sense to me, no.
Not my problem. Go and understand it.
So you don't understand. So you're claiming one will have more weight.
In order to prove your statement wrong.
Weight will be extra pressure, Arthur. Weight will be extra pressure.
I put the Avogadro's postulate, Avogadro's law to you in order to prove you wrong. You said that, no, I would be wrong. I showed it to you. And then you say it does not make sense. That's how it went.
It doesn't make sense. The one gas law didn't make sense to me.
Because you're taking the conventions out of context.
Well, I know this much. I know that it goes. I know this much, Arthur. I know that the very thing that you produce, which is Avogadro's law, goes against your own claim.
Because weight is pressure.
Yeah, weight is one. Weight. pressure on a scale. Is it not? Are you saying it isn't? Are you saying weight is not a downward pressure force?
Right, it's the relative density disequilibrium force
Hang on,
that is
Arwen.
measured in pressure.
Arwen, please leave Arthur answer that. Are you saying weight is not a linear downward vector force, not a pressure on a scale?
I don't need to say what weight is today because I
Yes,
did not
you do,
claim it.
because you're claiming one gas will have more weight. That's pressure.
We were at your claim that one gas would have more density. You were explaining what density means, and that's how we went to innate mass. And that's how we came to Avogadro's law. I did not claim weight. I was
You went to
careful enough to do
Avogadro's
that.
no, right? You produced Avogadro's law as some kind of rebuttal against me, right? And I told you as to one gas law that I'd never agreed with. It doesn't make sense. How did they get to the number? How do two gases, right? If two gases are, you have to know how much gas is it you're putting into the calculation of how much gas you're putting into two equal volumes to know how much is in it. You can't just go off temperature and pressure to tell you how much is in it. If two are equal temperature and they both are equal pressure at that temperature, that doesn't tell you that there's an equal amount of gas in both ones, in both volumes.
Okay, so shall we go back to the initial example of two containers?
No, weight. We'll go back to weight that you're claiming, and you'll admit that it is a pressure. That's what we'll do. Well, are you gone silent?
Looks like.
I guess you have been a panel member for longer, so I'll have to relent.
No,
You don't have to relent. That's a load of rubbish. Hang on, Neil. That's a load of rubbish. You don't have to relent nothing. You just have to be honest, Arthur. I was
I
honest.
can't believe that I just proved that you went against Avogadro's law and no one else
I don't
here
care
has
about
anything
Avogadro's
to
law.
say.
I'm talking about reality. I don't care about Avogadro's law. It doesn't make any sense.
But
Unless someone can explain it to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, you just need to admit it and then we can move forward.
No,
He admitted that it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, now you need to admit that weight is a pressure. Because I'm not able to be honest here. I've been honest all the time. So is weight a pressure, Arthur?
Define weight, define pressure, then I could tell.
Oh my!
Arthur, now you're being just completely dishonest. Weight is a downward pressure on the scales.
He's abusing the fact that weight is a highly misunderstood concept, convention within physics, and it's being used in all kinds of ways that don't actually match each other. Okay?
Wait, yeah, but
you're right with misunderstanding, and now you're making it our problem, Arthur. That's really ridiculous to do.
Well, all he has to do is admit that it is a pressure. Because when I said pressure, Arthur, you tried to build a straw man, as if I was talking about pressure in all directions. Weight is a pressure, a downward pressure, force. And you don't seem to want to admit that. And you don't be telling me about, oh, I'm a panel member longer. I don't care if I turned up just today and you're here 20 years or the opposite way around. It doesn't matter about who's right and who's wrong. You're not admitting, Arthur, that weight is a pressure. And the Avogadro's law, the very thing that I don't agree with, but it's the thing that you produced, stands in complete contradiction to your claim that one will have more weight.
Avogadro's law says nothing about weight.
It talks about pressure, Arthur. It brings pressure. Weight is a form of pressure in a direction. Just pressure in a particular direction, down.
Could I just maybe... I don't want to take sides. I don't want to take sides. Just want to give you both a clue. So what we're talking about is real world, and then there's also ideal gas law. Ask yourself what Avogadro's law is taking into account and doesn't take into account if you think it's based on the premise of ideal gas behavior.
Could you say that again, Adam? Sorry.
What does it take into account? Go on, Adam, repeat it.
Well, no, you do, because I'm going to go for a cup of coffee, but best if you can summarise it.
No, I'd rather you did.
Okay. So just a little clue. So we're talking about molecular models here and how we explain these things. And within Avogadro's gas law, have a look at it and see what it takes out in its assumptions of ideal gas behaviour. And is ideal gas behaviour what we're discussing here? Go in for coffee.
Well, I don't know what it takes out. I'm just on the. I'd have to go literally in the show right now, going in reading it right now. I don't know what it takes out. I would have preferred Adam just saying it. Doesn't matter whatever if it helps or goes against me. I'd rather he just said it. Make it easier.
Round out.
Can I quickly say something about the whole Avogadro's law, or however you say that? Is that the one that utilizes ideal gas?
To that, Nathan, I've posted a video in Master B just for the audience so they get a basic understanding of what it is. If you want to pull that up or not, I just thought it might help.
So is avocado, I don't care how you say it.
Avocado.
That damn law, that's about the one with ideal gases, right? Is that the one specific?
Yeah, it's based on that. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, then it's based on a concept. And it can never really be anything outside of the concept. It's like an idea based on a simulation of reality that's unprovable. So it's completely pointless.
Well,
that's kind of what I got out of what Adam said too. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Chocolate. What it states is that...
Just stop. We'll just play a bit of this video.
This is Easy Engineering. This time we're going to talk about Avogadro's law. In a gas, its physical behavior is described by these four variables, namely pressure, volume, temperature, and amount, or mole. In this
video is called Avogadro's law, and it's by Earth Pen, all one word.
This video, we will have Avogadro's law, which is concerned in relationship of volume and amount of gas. This condition is true when temperature and pressure is constant. Avogadro's law was formulated by the famous scientist Amadeo Avogadro in late 1812.
Amadeo Avocado.
In Avogadro's experiment, he prepared two test tubes and fitted it with piston cylinder assembly. In the first test tube, he added about 0.10 mole of dry ice and 0.20 mole of dry ice in the second test tube. When the dry
We're following along so far?
Yeah, 0.10 in one, 0.20 in the other.
Ice became gas in the room temperature and the pressure of the dry ice became equal to atmospheric pressure, he noticed that the volume in the second test tube is twice the volume of the first tube. The relationship of volume and amount follows this graph as shown.
Oh, it's the same as the same as the FAFO
that
graph.
That makes more sense.
Same as FAFO.
Yeah, but it makes more sense. He's using the same gas.
Yeah.
Not two different gases.
No, not so far.
That's
volume is directly proportional to amount. This relation can also be expressed as the volume over amount is equal to some constant. If we have a gas under two different conditions, we can write the formula as. In the formula, we can see that under a certain condition of the gas, increasing the volume would result to increasing the amount of gas, or decreasing the volume would result to decreasing the amount mole.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's talking about now it makes more sense to me that it's referring to the same gas, not two different gases. The behavior of two different gases.
Two different amounts of the same gas.
Yes.
For example,
that makes more sense.
The initial amount of dry ice is 1 mole and occupies a volume
It says here the initial amount of dry ice, and then it's got in brackets gas, is 1 mol, and then he goes on. I think what Adam was alluding to was if you describe this rather than with a practical example, but with an ideal gas, then it's going to be the ideal gas at the same pressure and the same volume, but twice as much of it.
That makes more sense. That is what he was alluding to.
Maybe. I don't know. That's why I didn't summarize on his behalf, because I didn't know where he was going. That's why I didn't summarize for him.
Yeah. Well, I would, until he comes back, I would presume that's what he's pointing out, is that when you're dealing with ideal gas, you're talking about there's no different gases. Like, all gases behave the same. The ideal gas law applies to all gases. But when you're talking about Avogadro's law, it's the behavior of a same gas we're talking about the pressures with 2 different amounts and different things. Yeah, I understand that. But will that work with 2 different gases? That's the thing. Then we're stepping into a situation with 2 different gases.
With 2 liters. What is the volume if we increase the amount of dry ice to 2 mol? We first identify the given. We are going to find the final volume. Hence, we substitute the known values to the formula. Solving for the final volume, we have 4 liters. So the final volume is 4 liters. Doubling the amount, mol, also doubles the volume. So that's it. It's very easy, right? So that is all.
That doesn't make sense to me now, because the volume that is being used in the example is the same for both, but the amount that it occupies in terms of the amount of displacement in that bung that it's got is twice as much. Therefore, there's twice as much pressure, but now it's been translated into the volume itself. I'm now more confused with his conclusion, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, I think that is a little bit. I'd have to watch that video again a couple of times. That is a little bit confusing the way he's speaking there. But I do know that makes more sense to me if Avogadro's law is only dealing with two volumes containing the same gas, like both containing helium, for instance. We're going to have to, or both containing whatever.
If you've got oxygen or any individual gas, it's not a mixture of to fit the ideal gas law, then it's mashed my brain. PV equals nRT. The universal gas constant isn't applicable for that individual gas. So you can use PV equals nRT, but you have to have the individual gas constant for the individual gases if you're going to resolve for them. I think this is so long ago.
For now, I hope you learned something today. Once again, this is easy engineering.
If you're then going to use a convention such as Avogadro's, you're not really dealing with the real thing. You're using the convention of the ideal gas law for something that isn't an ideal gas.
But it's not referencing 2 different gases. Like, even within Avogadro's law is referencing two of the same gas, not helium in one and carbon dioxide in the other, for example.
It's not an ideal gas, then.
Yes.
So, if it's one gas, then it's not an ideal gas. It doesn't behave.
Yeah, I understand. You're talking about it as a convention, an ideal gas. The point I'm making is Avogadro's law applies to the same gas in both volumes. How does it apply to helium in one and carbon dioxide in the other?
Give me a minute. I'll sniff out a succinct summary. It's apples and oranges again, but just bear with me.
No worries.
Well, we're not going to sit with dead air. We'll have to find out tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and Jupiter channels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!